Hey, everybody, move your body. Yeah, how, how.
Everybody. Yeah, yeah. Rock your body.
Megatron must be stopped, no matter the cost. Cybertron!
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Autopod Decepticast, a weekly podcast delivering an episode-by-episode breakdown of the original G1 series. Today we have APDC episode 190, TF episode 76, Thief in the Night. It was the TF episode air date of October 6, 1986. And folks, we've got some alarming news. We just found out that Aaron has been kidnapped, and Ryan and I must work together to save him. You see, Ryan, a detective inspector of the Royal Hong Kong Police Force, is assigned to me, a detective for the LAPD, to babysit as punishment for botching a sting operation. There was some tension at first, but this odd couple situation is fast growing into quite the buddy action comedy friendship. Ryan and I, dipping into our Manscaped money, have arranged for a $50 million ransom drop in exchange for our pal. I'm sure the operation will go just fine, and no one else will be harmed in the process. Ryan, please introduce yourself and reassure the listeners that we've got this under control.
$50 million? Who you got, Chelsea Clinton? That's right. I decided whether I was going to get canceled for doing a Chris Tucker impression or a Jackie Chan impression.
Right. Yeah, I thought about the same. I think
Not Brian.
I think it was a tough call either way. Hi, Ryan. And joining us today to discuss today's episode and other topics is none other than Mike Seibert from the Hi, I'm Mike Seibert Radio Super Happy Fun Time Explosion podcast.
Everybody's favorite Transformers adjacent podcast.
There you go.
Mike,
Hi,
say
I'm
hi.
Mike Seibert. How we doing, guys?
Good. We haven't seen you since I haven't seen you since TFCON Chicago. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to reconnect with you guys. It feels like an eternity, but it's
not been that long ago.
it's not that long actually.
No.
But it's very cool. I like the momentum of togetherness and friendship and all that. It was interesting. I hadn't quite pieced this together when we were all together in Chicago. It was like we hadn't actually seen each other since the last TFCon Chicago in 2018.
Right.
So
4 years.
Were you not at DC? I guess
no,
not.
I
Oh,
I
wow.
did not
Okay.
go. And meanwhile, I've been to a bunch of like TFCons LA,
Mhm.
and things like that. And I've seen I saw Aaron at TFCon LA, but
Burbank, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, but one of the things I talked about in my podcast was like talking to folks and connecting with all of us. It doesn't feel like any time has passed,
Right.
and that like we do see each other so infrequently in real life. It's like I didn't even notice. It's like we were in Deep Sunday, I think, and I'm just like, oh shit, I don't think we've actually like shared a room together, and we've done a lot of this virtual stuff in the meantime, and that probably helps. But yeah, it's just interesting that we're so connected in that digital space that it didn't even occur to me that it had been that long in the real world.
Yeah, I will
real.
say that
Right.
TFCon Chicago that we went to in 2018, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, the first one when we did the first panel. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that one was better than this one, just in terms of the venue and like it was the same hotel, but like I guess I'm just talking about the bar.
Yeah, you are. The energy, the overall. Now, I will say that I did enjoy the panels very much.
Yes, that I did too.
I did think it was a very active dealer room, but we all just the bar and so I guess we're getting into it. Let's talk about TFCon Chicago. We'll just do this, and then we'll move on with the rest of the episode. Not that I'm trying to push this along. But,
Did I have a weird part of the intro that I kind of
No.
fucked up and just kind of jumped in?
Not at all. No, this is good.
Okay.
Let's talk about TFCON Chicago. So we were all there.
Mhm.
We got to see a lot of our.
We met a lot of people that I'm not going to mention because I'll leave someone out.
Yeah,
I'll let Aaron do
saw
that.
a
if he
lot
wants
of
to do it.
we saw a lot of our patrons, and I wish I would have done the proper notes to give those guys shout outs.
Listen, here's the problem. And this is why I leave this to Aaron, because he's a social person,
Yeah.
and I can't connect names and faces, and it's because I'm just a completely self-absorbed human being, and I just don't care. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that I don't care. It's mainly
You do
that I just
care.
don't commit that part of my brain
I'm the same
to
way.
doing it.
I'm bad about it.
Well, that's okay. I have actual face blindness. There was somebody who hung tough with me and a group of folks on Friday, and I saw them again Saturday afternoon with no comprehension that I had been hanging out in a room with this
Interesting.
person for hours.
Right.
and I'm like, hi, I'm Mike Seibert. Yeah, it's so yeah,
Well,
we're in good company here.
I do know off the top of my head, we hung out with Josh Powell, Jay Swoops. We went and actually saw Moondog Greg Murray do a wrestling match. He couldn't come, but he had to the con, but he had a
We hung out with
Melvar was there.
I guess we are mentioning
the guys.
people.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
The guys from Cracktastic Plastic were there.
Yep.
Ken
Yeah,
Bachman
buddy.
was there. We went out to dinner one night with Bono and her partner
Mandy. That was for me the highlight, because we've known them for so long,
Yeah.
just virtually. Like they've been here since really early on. Like Bono's friend Haley was the winner of our very popular G My Joe contest.
G.I. Joe, yeah.
But yeah, meeting Bono and Mandy in real life was really neat. They took us to the Sugar Factory,
Yeah.
which was interesting.
It's like
It's
being
basically like an adult Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, there's the kids there though too.
It's weird.
It's like going to a
Yeah.
club that's a restaurant.
Yes, or like a club that is
Loud
just like
ass music.
confectionery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
And kind of like a shitty restaurant too on top of it. It's like I compared it to like
very
I
expensive.
compared it to like a cheesecake factory in the club.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a cheesecake factory. I did enjoy my salad. And I thought
Oh, I mean, the food was good.
The drinks were
I mean-
good. It was interesting. But that's
Yeah.
just, I mean, there were no surprises. I mean, it's what
No.
you got what you.
And Bono, this will
Yeah.
feature in a cocktail in the future, but she gave us 3 APDC like etched
Glasses.
tumblers that she made, and they're fucking awesome. And I'm definitely gonna link up with her for future booty boxes, because she is crazy awesome at making like props and costumes.
Yeah, she's
and
very good.
Mandy as well.
But she kind of does for a living now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will say that I managed to pull off having good conversations with most every one of our patrons. Josh Powell, hooked us up with some shots of Malort, and we're having a good time talking to him. Jay Swoops, I had a really good conversation with him about pop culture. Ken Balkman, I did get some one-on-one with him. It was good to see him face-to-face. Great guy. Cracktastic Plastic. Since I'm a musician, those guys are musicians. They tour. I got to talk with them as well about music and just what we like and dislike, and just kind of the interesting position of being a band in the Midwest and touring and what it entails and kind of the road life. Of course, got to hang out with Mr. Seibert here, which was a good time.
Yeah, you gave us some awesome pins and artwork
Yeah.
from what was it, Cybfest?
Yeah. I bought a bunch of stuff at Cyfest Northwest, and I gave you guys the Ashley Artley combo pack experience. Gave you some buttons and some pins and whatnots.
Yeah.
Trying to spread the good word of the local art scene here in the Pacific Northwest. A lot of cool folks out here.
Right on.
Yeah, I was just so we can talk about it. If you wanted to tell us about your meeting with Mr. Cullen.
Oh, sure. And this is kind of an interesting experience for me coming back to this material, because like I've done a lot, logged a lot of hours talking a lot of stuff about TFCON. Like I was I recorded a episode of Transmissions with the guys and so we ended up talking about like the state of TFCon, and I got to participate in the podcasters roundtable to close out the show. That was a lot of fun, and we talked a lot about TFCon. And then I ended up doing a fairly lengthy and extensive episode of my own show. So in other words, what I'm saying is I've told this story at least 3 other times, but it's one of those things that, you know, there are some of those Mike Seibert stories that just kind of get told again and again, and this is going to be one of them.
This is your Ron Friedman, what is it, Orson Welles story?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. It's like, so then I ran my gun down his throat and said, "You need to give me a script, or I'm gonna shoot you in the head right now," or whatever the fuck he says in that room full of children. But
quick
I digress.
aside, that panel I bailed on the Ron Friedman.
Immediately, I was gonna say, so yeah. Let me come back to Peter Cullen, because like we're on the Ron Friedman kick, and I want to kind of get Caleb's take on this as well, because I feel like if we don't talk about it now, we're never going to talk about it again.
Let me just say really quick. I just to quickly just sum up my who we hung out with deal.
Oh, okay.
We did spend quite a bit. We hung out with Melvar quite a bit. Great.
Yeah.
And then and of course we hung out a lot with Johnny Utah. He went with us to see Moondog, and you know, it was a great time. It was really nice to catch up with all those guys, and I shouldn't say guys, folks, people. It was good to see all those people, and and yeah, it was an interesting TFCon.
So
let's stay on that Ron Friedman.
Yeah,
track.
tell us
Let's
your
flesh
feelings
that
on
out, 'cause that was something we were really looking forward to seeing, or we were really
I had no idea what to
curious
expect
about seeing. Yeah, and it was, I guess it was exactly what I thought it would be.
Did you stay for the whole thing?
Which one? None of them. I stayed. I didn't stay for all. I
Friday.
stayed for some. I stayed for the majority of most of them. But by the end of it, I was like, I can't do it.
What, you wanted to see wrestling also. Caleb, I think you did it right in that you split the difference, because that was a bit of a point of turmoil. Like I know Ryan noped out immediately.
Okay, yeah.
So what we're talking about is the Ron Friedman panel with
Jim Sorensen.
Jim Sorensen, thank you.
Yes.
And talking about the first the script, and like that it was revealed at TF Nation.
Yeah, it was
and
the American version.
I lasted
version of that.
I lasted about 15 minutes, and I was like, I gotta go.
Why? What pushed you
It was
out?
fucking boring.
Yeah, and what in what regard?
Ron Friedman, it was just like him talking about things I don't care about.
He kept going down rabbit holes of his own rabbit holes.
It really just, I knew it felt, and it was just like he knows exactly what he wants to say, and he's going to say it no matter what comes up. He's got a script in his head that he's doing.
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. And it was really after Ron Friedman's first response to Jim Sorensen's first question, which was like, "Hey man, what was your headspace when you were writing this first draft of the Transformers the movie?" And then so Ron Friedman just goes on like this whole philosophical esoteric kick where he's talking about like the power of myth and all this other stuff.
I like that. But go ahead.
I understand, but that wasn't necessarily to Ryan's taste. And I think once he got a feel of that's what the panel was going to be, he noped out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, what is it, like 8 to 10 minutes away, our good buddy, the Moondog Greg Murray was doing this wrestling show over at the VFW over there. And I didn't realize it was as close as it was.
Yeah.
So it's something it was very achievable to go to. I have said that I went to TFCon for friendship, but I also went to TFCon for TFCon. So it was and Caleb, you and I talked about this for a bit before you ended up making your choice to join the show and all that. But it was kind of interesting because like I think Aaron and Johnny Utah and Johnny Utah's brother, and to an extent Caleb, you and I were kind of like trying to figure out like how is this going to go, and kind of
Yeah.
get a gauge on it. And then
Yeah.
eventually that delta point hit where
He was like,
where
okay, I can go now.
exactly. So a bunch of
Yeah.
our buddies noped out and made sure that they made it to the wrestling show.
Yeah.
My buddy Caleb, on the other hand, hangs out with me because he's Caleb's a good buddy, because like
Oh.
you were picking up on kind of my vibe,
Yes.
because like I was in a really weird spot, because I don't know if I was getting out of the panel what I want. I mean, that's an ongoing thing with me
Yeah.
with Ron Friedman. I keep being disappointed because I think I keep wanting something that he's not giving, which is like concise answers on the topic. So
Sure.
like again, the thing that drove Ryan away was like, you know, Jim Sorensen just asked him what his headspace was when he was writing Transformers the movie, and you get like Ron Friedman : origin story, you know,
Yeah.
that
No,
that
it's
kind of
true.
thing. And I remember, I've lost track of the places I may or may not have talked about this, but this takes me all the way back to TFCON LA 2019, when Aaron had the opportunity to interview Ron Friedman. And I remember at the time, and like this was a moment of bad friendship on my part, and I wish Aaron wasn't kidnapped so I had the opportunity to say this on mic with him. But like I remember, like, all of us were very excited about that, and it's like, what's Ron Friedman going to say? And we didn't really know. We weren't familiar with his cadence, his diction, and his, you know, philosophical outlook, and how just thoroughly verbose he is.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we sit down and do the interview and talk for about an hour. And Aaron, all hopeful, is like, well, so hey, Mike Seibert, what'd you think? And I was like, it was fine. It was fine. I mean, I was nonplussed. And again,
You were
notoriously, I was really grouchy that weekend
Yeah,
anyway.
you,
Which
you were
that's
tired.
sure, yeah, and it was but again, I felt like I was committing bad friendship, and I didn't realize
Wow.
that's what I was doing at the time. But Aaron asked me, he was like, so what's up? And I was reluctant, and then finally he's like, motherfucker, just tell me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you know, for a podcast about the Transformers the movie, and talking to the writer of the Transformers the movie, you guys didn't really talk about the Transformers the movie, which in retrospect is still kind of shitty of me, but that's how I felt. That
I think now that we've had some perspective, I'm not as hard on Aaron as I might have been in the past, because it seems like it's really hard to get Ron Friedman to talk about Transformers the movie when apart from all the other segues that he wants to talk about.
We always talk about whether or not what he thinks Transformers the movie is, because
Yes.
it's not completely clear. Like, Aaron keeps saying that he thinks that that Ron Friedman's never seen the movie, and that what he wrote is what's on screen. And I
wanted
tend to
ask
agree.
that. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask if he's ever seen the movie before.
But I would agree with you, Mike. Whenever I listen to that episode, there's a lot of front loading before we get to Transformers, and that's episode number 97. If you want to go listen to that APDC episode with the Ron Friedman interview,
I do like listening to Ron Friedman getting into the weeds with Heroes
Strong
Quest.
disagree.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Strong disagree.
All right, sure, fair enough. I like digging into the elements of what leads to, you know, creating a hero's story, creating a that hero's quest. I think he did do that. I really enjoyed that up top. As long as, you know, if you were along for the ride, I think I think Melvar was really into that part of it as well.
yeah,
But the problem with Ron is then I wish he would have got that out of the way and then would have been able to then focus. And he didn't. He didn't focus necessarily. He did do the same thing where he's, like Ryan said, he's got this idea of these kind of a scripted answers or things that he just likes to talk about that may or may not be relevant to the
Yeah.
question that was asked of him.
yeah,
And it just goes off onto this weird tangent that everybody has a hard time following. He's basically lecturing. And from years of doing that, from probably lecturing, that
Yeah.
no matter what you ask him, he'll just bend it into the answer, into that same answer.
Exactly. And the thing that was fascinating to me about that panel, and that was one of the deciding factors for me to go to TFCon Chicago. I mean, obviously to see you guys and see all of our other friends as well, but like there's a part of me that thinks that I helped manifest that panel into existence.
That's
because
true. You talked about it from the jump as soon as TF Nation started.
I think it was really important that how do you feel about that?
I don't really think it was me. I mean, I kind of had Jim Sorensen is a TFCon staple. He's in with those folks. I'm sure stuff was already happening behind the scenes. Now, maybe my material and my interview with him might have helped, kind of put it more top of mind. But when I say I manifested that panel, I got my tongue in my cheek.
Sure.
But
Sure.
That being said, this is material that is of great interest to me. So to have the historian archivist next to the architect, that seemed like that was very appealing. But the thing that was fascinating in watching it is the dichotomy and the divide when it actually became two separate panels. Because after a while, Jim didn't know what to do. So he was just doing the slides and presenting the stuff from TF Nation and talking about the differences. And one of the other fascinating things was because all of us are so close to this material. Like we did 2 episodes with our buddy, Captain Alexis, for God's sakes. We spent like 4 hours going through that entire first draft. So we're very, very familiar with it. It was super cool to be in a room live with folks who had never seen Rails before. And when he clicked that slide up and to get the crowd reaction from like all the slides and all like the art and the way that Jim was describing it, it wasn't the same experience as if we were in TF Nation like Alex was, but it was still pretty cool. There was still that palpable vibe. And it just kind of reminds me that, folks that go to conventions aren't necessarily citizens of Transformers Twitter. It's like I take for granted what our level of access and awareness is, and I just assume everybody's on the same page as us.
Like everybody already know this.
It is
right?
interesting because that's also like whenever we did our panel in DC, there was a huge turnout for that, but it was interesting because I'm like, well, surely everybody knows about all these, these script deviations and the stuff that, and it's like they went kind of nuts for it, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're super nerds. Like this is sometimes people, and also they come from like maybe not necessarily G1. Like a lot of younger people are into Armada or into IDW comics or whatever. Like it's not necessarily what we think.
Yeah. But overall, like I wanted to go see this guy talk, and I'm glad I got to see him talk. And I think, I put him on a pedestal beforehand. And I think when I read his book, I started not being so confident in that pedestal. But I think now I still respect his ability to be this very creative force that can pull in a lot of ideas and write. He's super knowledgeable. He's very smart. But I don't feel like I should be an apologist for him as much as I used to be.
Yeah, that's fair. So, Caleb, a follow-up question. It's APDC lore. In fact, a lot of the connection with Ron Friedman begins with Caleb. A lot of this is your fault.
How is that?
Well, hang on. I'm getting there. I was going to say, much as I was joking that my podcast and conversations manifested the TFCon panel, I would say that Caleb's early relationship and dynamic with Ron Friedman manifested a lot of this TFCon stuff.
I'm
because
responsible for all of this.
I think so, because you had reached out to him on email about his manuscript.
I certainly did.
And in the early episodes of APDC, it became like this rivalry type of thing where it's like, Caleb's going to show up to TFCon with a shiv saying like, "Where's my manuscript?" And it's so funny to think about that, because Christ, guys, that was almost 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
That's but the takeaway on that is that TFCON LA, that 2019 show, was the first convention he had gone to.
Yeah.
And I can't help but wonder if perhaps that was maybe spurred on by an email conversation with some Transformers podcaster. Because because seriously, I don't think anybody else had interviewed him or talked to him in like the Transformers fan creation space. Out of that, from 2019 forward, that's when you start seeing Ron Friedman doing press. And now a lot of folks have talked to him.
Listeners, you heard it here. Mike Seibert has got a theory that Caleb Carter from the Autopod Decepticast is inspiring Ron Friedman to participate in Transformers conventions.
Now we can't be rid of him. Did you actually talk to him? Did you roll up to his table?
I never did. I was too intimidated to do it.
Oh,
I never
my
talked
friend.
to Ron. I never talked to Ron. Never did.
Peter Cullen. So I had the ticketing for the Peter Cullen thing was a little screwy. I didn't have any problems with it, but I talked to a bunch of fans that did. Basically, you had to pre-buy separate tickets to get either a autograph and photo op, or a VIP experience, which included all of that plus VIP sitting for the Peter Cullen panel. I just got an autograph because I just needed my poster signed. That, right. I don't have a whole lot of photos with me with folks I've had stuff signed, so I didn't necessarily need it. So anyway, that was at like 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. And it's a good thing that the Sadness restaurant, the Caddyshack Sadness restaurant, closed super early, because like that is, I cannot remember a time I've drank less. So
you sent us pictures from being in line, and it was downstairs. It looked like you guys were in a bunker.
Yes,
I went.
Whole new. I didn't know there was a lower level to this hotel, and I've been there a couple times. So I go down there at 10 in the morning, and it just goes down and around and back around the corner, and I'm like, how is this gonna go? I was really nervous that we're going to get all the autographs done in a timely fashion. And I'm making line buddies. Like there was an adorable couple behind me who had hand crocheted a Optimus Prime doll. It was, I don't know, maybe 18 inches tall. It was a good sized crochet doll thing, and basically they were going to present it to Mr. Cullen. And I'm chatting with a handful of other folks. I'm social in those situations. I like line buddies because you're all there for the same thing. Mm-hmm. So like even like in TFCon in general, everybody's got their own show. Whether it's toys or comics or autographs or toys or podcasting or whatever. But if we're all in the same line to get autographs from Peter Cullen, we're all there to get autographs from Peter Cullen. So there's always there's a certain degree of camaraderie that's already baked in. But it reminds me of a comment that somebody made to me at work when I went back to work Tuesday morning, and they were being a smart mouth, saying like, oh, hey, you went to a Transformers convention? Oh, I bet you there were a lot of girls there. Her. And I'm like, I'm like, yeah, actually. And it's kind of interesting that the spectrum of Transformers fandom seems to be, if I may be reductive, I would put us in two groups, because this is kind of what I saw the majority of. Folks that look like us, folks that look like me, and young queer girls. Yeah. Girls under the age of 30. So I was like, so I explained this to this knucklehead I was talking to at work, and it's like, oh, I'm like, yeah, you kind of feel stupid now, don't you?
What if I take you out of the parking lot and mess you up?
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, because I remember that being a huge surprise to me at my first TFCon. I'm just like, oh, duh, those comic books, of course.
Sure.
But anyway, my point being is that everybody I was in line buddies with for Peter Cullen were in that group, not so much my group. So basically how it goes is he is in a room that the line feeds into. And basically when it's your turn, you go into the room. He has a table that's a little further back. You give your item to the handler. The handler then handles it to Mr. Cullen's either manager or, whoever his person is that isn't a TFCON person, and then that hands that off to Mr. Cullen. So I handed Josh my poster, who then handed it to the guy, gives it to Mr. Cullen, and he autographs it, and I roll up to him, and because I had practiced what I wanted to say. I had a pretty good handle on it.
So you're allowed
and I
to
roll
talk
up
to them. How far away is he from you when you talk to him?
He's at the table.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he's right there. There's no distance. I got a very positive interactive experience.
Yeah. All right. What happened?
He autographs my poster, and I reach out my hand and introduce myself. I go, "Hi, my name is Mike." He shakes my hand, and just like the warmest grandfatherly handshake you can think of, very, very well lotioned, like a baseball mitt that's been well loved and well tanned leather, very soft and supple and warm and grandfatherly. Seasoned. Thank you. I've spent hours, and I've told this story a half a dozen times. Seasoned was a word that always eluded me.
That's okay.
Thank you, Caleb. So I tell him, I was like, well, hi, my name is Mike, and I just wanted to say thank you for everything that you've contributed to this fan base. It means a lot to a lot of people, and it means a lot to me. And he looks up at me, and with the warmest, gentlest Canadian eyes, and he just says, "You're welcome." Mm-hmm. And that was it. And then I was on my way. The folks behind me with the crochet doll, I'm still within like earshot when this is happening. So basically, like, they presented, he's like, "This is for me," and he gets very emotional. They get very emotional, and I get some kind of like emotional overflow because I'm over there hanging out with Trish while this is happening, and I'm just like, yeah, I mean, and it wasn't necessarily my experience that made me want to cry, but it was like watching them have their experience. It's the thing that kind of pushed me over the emotional precipice. But again, I've had some terrific interactions with celebrities, and I've had some not so terrific ones.
I would say that some of the non-terrific ones you've had that you've told us about, I would still classify as terrific on depending on how you define them.
But disappointing.
Well, in terms of but I've managed to mine a lot of storytelling out of it. So you're right. It's not necessarily like a wasted gesture experience. Ryan, since we're here, you want to talk about meeting Sue Blue?
Yeah, I did. It's the first time I've ever had anything signed or met anybody. And there were several times I tried to go and stand in line, and like she was doing panels all weekend, obviously. And so I happened to get, it must have been Saturday, that I happened to get in right after she came back from a panel. So I was like third in line, and no line had formed really behind me up until that point. And so what I wanted to do is, I did want to meet her, but I also, Friday the 13th is my favorite horror movie franchise, and Friday the 13th Part 7 in particular is probably my second or third favorite Friday the 13th movie, and she plays the mother in that one. And so I had a Friday the 13th Part 7 poster that I brought for her to sign. I'm sure I said some things to her because I rehearsed it also, but I completely blacked out into what I said to her.
Oh, you think you said it, though, maybe?
I said all that in some form, but I don't know how coherent I was.
I'm sure you were great.
Nope. I bet I wasn't.
Well,
and
it doesn't matter. You don't remember what happened.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. And so she signed it with I'm blanking on the name of her character in the film. But she signed her name, Sue Blue, and she signed the name of the character, and like we got a picture together.
Yeah.
And then I just
how's the pic look?
I had to edit it because my hair's weird. So I photoshopped it because my hair looked weird.
Photoshopped it how?
I fixed my hair.
Okay. So when you started coming to, like you started coming to kind of out in the trade floor, and you're like
After we took the picture, she was like, she complimented my sport jacket.
there you
I remember
go.
that.
Aw.
Yeah, she's very nice. She was very nice. I just don't know what I said.
I encountered
Yeah.
her in outside the elevator. She was coming out of the elevator.
I have a lot of people online said they met her in the elevator.
yeah.
Too funny.
But yeah, and then Sunday, the only other thing I'll just say about the TFCON was that on Sunday, I went and did the floor, and I bought a Computron, and then we went to the Caddy Shack, which was the
Sadness
restaurant.
bar.
Ugh.
It was overall a bad place to go.
Yeah, because the first TFCon we went to in Chicago at the same hotel, they had a bar that was in the Midway that was open for like the
Yes.
gathering on Friday night and Saturday night.
Yes.
And like, so the only bar was in the Caddy Shack, which closed at 11. And so we went there. Caleb and I went there for lunch, and not really lunch, but like we sat with Josh,
Yeah.
who bought us martinis.
Yeah, I would say that the drinks that they made were good, and if you went there for lunch to get wasted during the day, it was okay, but fucking hell. At night,
I want to get wasted at night.
at night. Anyway, we'll stop there. But Ryan, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I had a couple drinks before that, and then Josh bought us a drink, and then bought us martinis, and then I was
you're so
hammered. And went back up, and I was like, I'm just gonna shut my eyes just for a
This is
second.
what me and Aaron left.
Yes,
Sunday.
you guys were already like on the way out at that point.
we were leaving, and I could tell
This is
you were
Sunday
like,
afternoon.
you were like, I'm so drunk right now, and I was like, wow, you must be really drunk then.
And,
'cause you're
so
drunk a lot.
I just went down, and I went up to the room, and I laid down, and then I wake up, and it's 6:30 at night,
You missed
and
the,
everything was done. I think, you know what? I think it's time for.
a drink.
Yep.
Yeah, let's drink.
Mike, in the meantime, while I get this together, why don't you tell us how happy you are about this episode that we've saddled you with? And I gave you the choice of 2 great episodes you could come and join us on since Aaron was out. And winners both.
Kidnapped. Okay. So yeah, no, so you guys reached out to me, and I was given a real Sophie's choice here. I could have done the episode we are talking about today, Thief in the Night, or Madman's Paradise. And for me, which is your guys' next episode, and for me, I have no connection to either episode. I have no tether of nostalgia nor particular attachment, and I hadn't seen either episode in years.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a toss-up and a dealer's choice. Like for me, I had no recollection of what Madman's Paradise was, and the only thing that I remembered about Thief in the Night is that it's quote unquote the Carbombya episode.
Right.
I didn't remember anything about the plot other than it's
Right.
That-
and
that's
we've been
what it
talking
is.
about Carbombya now for years. And here it is. And it was like, oh yeah, this is the Carbombya episode. So yeah.
Yeah. So and again I hadn't any idea. So I started watching the one I was least familiar with. I started watching Madman's Paradise,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not sure I had actually even seen that episode. I swear that there are season 3 episodes that I still 30 years later have not seen, because of like the weird broadcast schedule in 1986. Like it was on afternoons, then it was on in the morning, and it moved around a lot. And I mean, I have the DVDs somewhere, but I honestly don't know if I have sat through the entirety of season 3. So it's entirely possible there's still episodes that I haven't seen. So anyway, so I'm watching this Madman's Paradise, and it's basically in my opinion a He-Man episode reskinned as a Transformers episode.
Yeah.
So I'm like okay, well, let me give this Thief in the Night a day in court. And I watch it, and like almost immediately I'm just the revulsion I was feeling about this episode sucks. I really don't like this episode. I mean, I'm going to enjoy talking about it because I like friendship and connecting with you guys. But like, I've been on the show a number of times at this point, and it's always been for episodes that I like and I have
Sure.
a lot of nostalgia for, like Heavy Metal War and Auto Berserk and Autobop. And but like this is my first one where I'm like, I don't like this episode. It's uncomfortable.
Uh-huh.
It's insensitive,
Uh-huh.
and it's very much of its time.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
you can really kind of feel the 1986 era Flint Dille influence on this one.
Uncomfortable, insensitive. We have Mike Seibert right where we want him to participate in an episode. We're going to get we'll get some good content out of it. And that's,
I think so.
it is a shit episode. I like shit episodes. I think it brings a lot of interesting conversation points
I agree.
out. So.
Yeah, I mean, I will probably find myself saying more about this episode than maybe perhaps episodes
Exactly.
that I like.
I think
So-
our next
That's
one we have you on is Carnage in C minor.
Oh man, which is objectively the worst episode of the Transformers.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that episode is god awful.
I don't know.
But
It's going to give Bot a run for its money.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that's we'll talk about it when I'm on the
right.
episode proper. But like, I just like that Soundwave and Galvatron hold hands,
and fly.
and it makes me very happy.
Sure.
And there's a lot of Soundwave in that episode, and I think that may even be the last episode Soundwave is in.
Yeah, it's
Well,
pretty late.
Ryan is back. Ryan, I hope you still made the same amount of alcohol. More for you and me since Aaron's not here.
Nope. So we have more Bias to Drink cocktails on the docket, but I wanted to bump them for when Aaron is able to join us. And so right now what we have is the TFCON Energon Fitzgerald. I made it themed. This is normally a gin-based cocktail with a relatively recent origin. The Fitzgerald was created by Dale DeGroff while working at the Rainbow Room in New York City in the 1990s. This version I made is 1 ounce or 30 mils of London dry gin, 1 ounce of vodka, 3/4 ounce or 22 mils of lemon juice, 3/4 ounce of simple syrup, 1/4 ounce, 7 mils of blue curacao, 2 dashes of Angostura bitters, and you shake all them ingredients in your shaker and strain into a coupe. Garnish with a lemon slice. I used a dried one because they look cool, and I'd hydrated a shit ton of them, and I got to use them for something.
Oh, you made them.
Yep, I had a bunch of lemons at one point and was not going to use them in time, so I had hydrated a ton.
Cool.
And this cocktail is guaranteed to give you all the energon power necessary to conquer your foes and see them driven before you. If you want a traditional Fitzgerald, which is superior, double the gin and leave out the vodka and the blue curacao. I was just trying to be fun.
All right.
And I know that energon is more purple, but I tried making a purple version, and purple drinks look disgusting.
Do they like black?
It just looks like mud. It looked gross.
Ew.
There you go.
Delicious.
Borderline interesting. Very sweet.
Borderline interesting.
Very sweet. Borderline savory in a weird way. What's making
Whoa.
Probably the Angostura bitters.
a little salty, but
It's probably the bitters.
yeah, cool.
Just a quick note about the Bias to Drink cocktail from episode 189. Yesterday, our friend Brian Jones emailed me. I don't know why, but he's like, just tell everybody the Beam and Cream we had from episode 189. He just wanted to let everyone know he came up with a name just because it rhymes. I feel like he feels like people are being dirty about it, and I'm like, that's just kind of our brand.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
real.
So if you want to buy us a drink,
Podcast and your credit don't stink. Then reach inside your wallet now and buy us a drink.
there it is. And now I'll tell you how. Just send us 5 doll hairs to PayPal at APODcast and let us know in the notes what drink you'd like me to make, why, ingredients, story, whatever you want to include. And I'll make the cocktail and shout you out in a future episode. And for members of our Patreon, you don't need to pay me. Just message us there and let us know what you'd like. I have a bunch of them stacked.
Yeah.
So I just didn't want to do one without Aaron being here.
Non-patrons, please use cash. Do not actually send us real doll hairs. Thank you.
I don't know. Maybe I'm making a coat.
Okay. That's a
There
lot
you
of doll
go.
hairs. We'd like to thank our Patreons, Alpha Magnus Creations, Debbie, Skeeter, Jeff, Mike Seibert, Jeremy, Bono, Michael Tremblett, Justin, Jonathan, Robinus Prime, Daniel V, Soapfubi Samurai, Chandler, J Soups, Matty V, Nick Warren, Big Ken Bachman, Moondog, Greg Murray, Captain Alexis, Corey, Michael Andrews, James and Julia, The Empire of Rust Zone, Michael Ordway, Tim, Jason, Thomas, Other Justin, John, Simon, Alex, Squid King, New Daniel, and Seven, the Chronicler.
Thank you for all that you
Wow.
do.
We have
What
lot
a
of-
list.
Got
Booty
some
boxes
patrons.
are coming. I've got some stuff to show Caleb. I forgot to show him
Ryan's
during the
got some
break,
really
but I got
cool
some fun things.
You guys are gonna be so happy with this booty box. It's some good stuff. For
Do you-
those new patrons, talk to the old patrons. They'll tell you how cool our shit is.
I think this is our third box.
It's pretty. Yes, it will be.
Wow.
I mean, it's a shame this video conference that we're on isn't going to be used for any footage. Otherwise, I would do the Saturday Night Live flyby of all of the APDC stuff that I have. I have 1, 2, 3. I have like a half a dozen pieces of APDC
Yes.
booty box art on my wall
It's
here
good stuff.
in.
You
my
can send me
studio.
some pictures. I'll put
Ryan-
them on the episode page.
Ryan and Aaron are
Okay.
outstanding artists. I've done
I
some
agree.
artwork. My stuff is not as technically as good as theirs, but
Everybody loves it though,
I instill
because it's
that
creepy as
you
shit.
know that humor that I have. So whatever I do is
Yeah.
going to be funny. But I something I just announced in that list of patrons, 2 new ones that I have not actually introduced yet. So I'm going to start out with Daniel Collins, who I now call New Daniel. We have an existing. This is New Daniel. Daniel enjoys times with his family, watching kaiju movies, anime, and pro wrestling. Top 2 Autobots are Mirage and Wheeljack, and top 2 cons are Six Shot and Overlord. He says, "Thank you guys again for a great show that makes us soon-to-be 42-year-old self." He's our age. Self-proclaimed nerd happy. And remember, the love I have for Transformers. Something about the characters just captured my imagination. Keep up the good work, and can't wait for the Beast Wars episode review.
Yeah, baby.
Thank you, Daniel. All right, since we already have a Patreon named Daniel, yes, I'm going to call you New Daniel. Thanks again, New Daniel. The other new patron, we have Seven, the Chronicler. Seven is from Salt Lake Valley, which he says loves to get too hot and too cold, which sounds a lot like Missouri, in my opinion, even though I have been in the Salt Flats, and that is a pretty goddamn desolate place. They're a wannabe toy collector, ex-writer, video gamer, and all-around nerd. Pizza is their favorite food, and the best pizza in their area is called Pie Pizzeria. In childhood, they loved G.I. Joe, Bionicle, I almost call it Bionicle, Mega Bloks, Lego, Skylanders, and much more, but Transformers has always been there, whether as toys, TV shows, movies, comics, or even some of the first video games they ever played. They grew up with the Unicron trilogy and Aligned. The WFC games deserve better, but IDW1 comics have been some of the best they've ever read. In good conscience, they could never pick one character. However, as of late, they really like Skylinks and Soundwaves. If you would like to become a patron,
Whatever.
get on Patreon and give us money. We'll shout you out on air, let you into the Discord, and send you merch via our Booty Box initiatives. There you go.
Yeah, it's patreon.com/APODcast if you want to go check that out. We have several levels of engagement.
I did mention the Discord site, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about that Discord now, because this is the first episode where that Discord is present.
And it's popping. I
It's
mean,
popping.
People like it.
we can't. I mean, that Discord's really got people talking, Rock.
Yo, Rock. There is a new Discord site. We have to thank our patron Squid King for setting that up for us.
Mm-hmm.
It does look to be popular. And then, of course, I did mention, and Mike beat me to it in my notes, that Discord's got people talking. At this point, become a patron, and we'll let you in.
Yeah, so he really threw us in the deep end by creating it, and I was like, we mentioned it offhandedly in an episode, which was a mistake, because then he created it, and now he's
Wasn't
like,
a mistake.
do it.
It's just the
And I'm
way
like,
to do
God
it.
damn, I don't know anything about
Here we
Discord.
are.
So Bono really actually helped me a lot, because she is a member of a couple of Discords.
She
and
manages
Yeah,
a
yeah.
couple.
yeah,
Oh,
she
that's
helped
so
me,
neat.
and also, I literally have been on Discord maybe once before that, and it certainly had never hosted one, so I still I'm probably missing a bunch of shit, but yeah. And if you do join a Patreon and you join the Discord and don't see anything, just message us on Patreon because I have to give you permission since it's a private thing.
So you think what happens on our Twitter site is cool? You have no fucking idea. We have no fucking idea. Ryan, we need some ideas.
Nah.
It's like Plato's Retreat bathhouse circa 1977 in there. What are we going to do? After we
Deep cuts.
After we hose it down, maybe cocktail discussions. I'm thinking about Ryan might have like a cocktail site.
Sure.
I'm thinking about possibly hosting a live trivia event in there.
Sure.
It's cool. We really appreciate our patrons getting in there and talking on the Discord.
Well, and for me, somebody that's been with you guys since close to the beginning, to me, the Discord feels like an extension of the legendarily notorious APDC group text that we talk about.
That's only one person that's allowed in that right now. That's my
right, exactly. And that's what I mean. So it's been like, this super insider thing that, we talk about and refer to, but like folks never really have like an actual like tangible connection to it. But now you can with the Discord, and it's full of all of the patrons. And, listen to that list that you rattled off. I mean, what a list. So, I mean, it's as soon as that Discord went live, it already just started popping. Like, I understand you guys wanting to create topics and content and stuff, but it's one of those things that it's like that boulder chasing Indiana Jones. It's got its own momentum already.
Yeah,
it's already so yeah, it's already kind of like a self-sustaining type of thing. And there's what I've enjoyed about it is to have folks that probably would not have interacted otherwise. Like I talked about line buddies earlier, and the thing that unites everyone in that Discord is that we're all homies with the APDC.
The reason that's great. That's a great point, Mike. Because the reason we even made it was someone was mentioning is there a place? Because we're not. I mean, we're on Twitter mainly, but even on the Patreon, there's not a place where everybody to get together, and Discord is basically made for that. And so everybody was like, "Is there a place to be social?" And so we were like, "All right." So we're in the Discord sauce.
I would like to say one thing though about the Discord though, and just text communication in general. Tone doesn't always come across in the typed word.
Right.
So if you're meaning something specific, you might not be a bad idea to say it specifically. And that's all I'll say about that.
Okay, fair enough. Last episode recap: we released a Patreon exclusive bonus ep to our Gen Pop, which contained additional dialogue from our TFTM Revisit ep with our good friends Kit and Harper from More Than Meets the Pod. And prior to that, we covered Forever is a Long Time Coming, where the Autobots traveled back in time to discover that their ancestors were slaves.
I wonder if that's on the bingo.
People are flipping chips right now. And so anyway, that was our last
spoilers. There's you're gonna punch another card coming up here too.
It's really crazy.
I will say
so crazy,
and I will say that the bingo.
I think we could just say there's a bingo card.
There's
coming.
a bingo
You guys
card
are getting
being
a bingo
made,
card.
Okay, you guys.
Yeah,
card.
I was gonna say at this point we're either gonna have to leave all this in or take all of it out.
There's a bingo card being made. You guys are gonna get APDC bingo, which covers things that we hit on. You can use this retroactively. Start over. Start listening again from episode 1. Play bingo through the whole deal. Play with your friends.
Share the card with us. What you did. Yep.
Yeah, we do want you to if you get a bingo, we want you to take a picture.
And you win no prizes, and there's no you don't get a lottery ticket or anything.
I was about to say, is it just episode specific? Is it just one game per episode or multiple episodes? You can do it. What? No. Do it however you want. Just listen until you hit a bingo. Episode experience. But Ryan was getting ready to say per episode.
It is. It's my bingo card. I get to say what it's like.
So shall we get into
Let's do it.
The episode?
Season 3, episode 76, Thief in the Night. Written by Paul Davids and animated by who? It's ACOM.
It's a com. It's a com.
Atomic Kids Overhauling Manure. That's what that stands
I like
for.
that.
That's
I
terrible.
like that.
That's not good.
I would say though no, I'm not gonna say it's good because again, just up front, right at the top, I don't like this episode. It's not fun. It's not funny. I don't like it. There's some stuff to talk about, but I would say though that the animation kind of okay in spots.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I would say we don't need to bury the lead and just say before we kick it off. What if you know anything about this episode? I'm sure you know the claim to fame is that this is what the episode that Casey Kasem quit the show over.
Yeah.
Casey Kasem, the voice of Blue Streak, Cliffjumper, Dr. Arkerville, and Teletran 1, because he left because of the offensive stereotypical depiction of dictator Abdul Fakadi in particular, and the Arab state of Carbombya more in particular.
And Casey Kasem was ethnically
Lebanese.
Yes.
He's Lebanese. And he said it wasn't that he objected to Arabs being portrayed as villains, but the fact that they were only portrayed as villains, basically.
That there was no equal opposite to counterbalance.
Which there was an episode, I can't remember which one it is, the one with the purple griffin, I think, where it is also in an Arab country, but there are both, good and bad people on both sides.
There's good people on both sides.
Yeah.
On both sides.
Oh God. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And fucking Carbombya, that's, hey, welcome to the 80s.
Yeah, I guess, obviously Middle East and oil was a big deal in the 80s.
I have this note earlier, but basically Carbombya is an analog for Libya.
Yeah, good old Gaddafi.
Sure. And obviously Fakadi is a analog, a stand-in for Gaddafi. Obviously.
Yeah.
Ooh, Autopod Decepticast is presenting. It's hot.
Bent over.
It's hot.
Okay. Well, we open up fucking hot with what we come to find out is the game tape of Trypticon and Metroplex's fight back in Five Faces Part 5, where Rodimus, Perceptor, Grimlock, and the fucking aerial bots, great, are watching the fight on, I guess, Teletran 2? Like it's pay-per-view? And we'll just let this catch up for a second, but essentially, Grimlock wants to hear good part, and fast forward to where Metroplex finishes off the Lizard Bot. I don't remember I said written by Paul Davids. This is what this episode.
Yeah. So, go back and pause it a sec. So, two things right off the bat. One, this is early enough in season 3 where we're still using season 1 and season 2 music. It was kind of like a nice warm blanket of nostalgia where it's just like bump up a bump a bump brum 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 bump up a bump a bump. A lot of like those classic themes where we haven't really quite gotten far enough to where we're in like kind of like the discount Vince DiCola Transformers the movie sound-alike stuff. So, and again, I hadn't watched this episode in years, so that was kind of a surprise for me. But right off the bat, like as this presentation is starting, it appears to be either like some kind of like dramatic reenactment or that right there. I mean, this gray lady.
Weird.
What is going on?
I
with,
noticed her too. She's very strange looking.
Giant Amazon, a giant woman. Oh my God.
But yeah, I wasn't clear, and I had to go back and retroactively adjust my notes because I wasn't clear whether this was a new fight, but we'll come to learn that this is game tape.
Yeah, and so one of the things, as you said, the titular good part from Grimlock is the fight between Trypticon and Metroplex. This is one of those ACOM gonna ACOM situations because there's just no sense of scale and physics. I mean, sure, you could see that there's a cityscape here, but look at that. Trypticon is just running across the screen, and Metroplex hurls Trypticon over his shoulder. And you would think, I've watched enough Godzilla movies. I mean, shout out to Safubi Samurai, and there's always like a sense of scale and physics to it. It's like, so when a bad guy monster is hurling an empty Godzilla suit, they at least alter the frame rate or something just to give that illusion of heft and weight. And it's interesting to see Titan-sized Transformers just hucking each other around with really no consequence.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see later also, that just seems like Metroplex's go-to wrestling move is throwing shit around. I will say also, and this is not to call out every animation error, because we'll be here all fucking day. But we're not here, where we're seeing from the back of, we see Rodimus, Perceptor, the Aerobots, Grimlock. Watching this on Teletran 2, Grimlock here is in robot mode, and every time we go to close-up, he's in Dinobot mode, which is fine, but, like, it's just something I noticed.
I do like this part though, where Teletran 2 says, I mean, he is flipping Rodimus some lip, and it's like, I cannot compute. That does not make sense, Dave. I can't do that, Rodimus. I can't do that, Rodimus. Please define good part. And I like that Rodimus has that connection to the the Dinobots, where he's like, yeah, no, he wants to see the death blow. So, and it calls back to that even as Hot Rod, Rodimus has had a connection to the Autobots. That's twice now. The Dinobots, I mean, going back to the movie, that some of the other characters didn't really like Optimus had a very different dynamic with the Dinobots that Rodimus does.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
I thought that too, actually, because and they kind of like carry this through, like even in Five Faces, where Rodimus is hanging out with Grimlock. There is that thing where you kind of, I mean, maybe I'm giving it too much, but it does feel like he hung out with the Dinobots as Hot Rod, and so just kind of understands them, and like I feel like that bleeds through in a way.
I totally agree, and I think there's even like in the context of the movie, like that, you know, their adventure on Quintessa. It's like some of that dynamic carries over. These guys are homies. They've got some history, it feels like, and you kind of feel it when Rodimus just kind of like translates, and he does so without being shitty. Also, he's just kind of like, yeah, you know, he just wants to see where he does the death blow.
Yeah. So what Grimlock asks to see the good part, and what the good part is Metroplex destroying Trypticon, and then Rodimus asks Teletran 2 to show that, and Teletran 2 says, I can't, because there's no. Basically, he says there's no proof that Trypticon was destroyed. I think you're being a little pedantic, but it turns out to be true.
I do like that we get a little bit of Tune In Tokyo here too on the console. Woo woo.
And Casey Kasem was also supposed to voice Teletran 2 the same way he did Teletran 1, but I mean he left, so that's why he's not doing it. It's Frank Welker who does Teletran 2 here.
Ah, gotcha.
He throws Trypticon into the ocean, and as you probably know, we find out that Trypticon's not dead. So to find out for sure, we cut.
I mean, look at that. You see, like he throws him.
In Five Faces, it's no better. Like it's arguably worse when he throws him. It's ridiculous. He goes down off the cliff like it's a slide.
I do like that they completely reanimated this as opposed to just using
that's true.
So
that's
like
weird.
The angles are completely different. It's very odd. And at a time where ACOM got a ACOM, you would think you would reuse that rather than making new. I don't know.
That's true. I didn't think about that, but why wouldn't you just reuse those? Like, save yourself some fucking time.
Yeah. And now we get to see the Autobot Navy.
Yeah. This is like, what is this? What is this?
This is Broadside.
Is it a Transformer?
Yep, he's a triple changer. We saw his character model in Five Faces of Darkness when the Aerobots and Rodimus and the group like escaped, but then Broadside got blown up, and they go to the planet of goo. They fly to the planet of goo.
Right.
But it's just Broadside's character model. He doesn't speak, and it's obviously not supposed to be him, because here we have Broadside. He transforms into a aircraft carrier and also a spaceship.
So are we to assume that I don't know. I don't quite understand what you said. Is this supposed to be Broadside here?
Yes, it's Broadside.
This is Broadside. In fact, he speaks in a moment.
He does.
And actually, speaking of the way that he speaks, I don't. So Ryan, you had said when we saw the Broadside model spaceship, He doesn't actually speak, right?
No, that's why I think it's just they just picked a character model out of the air and just decided to make him a transport. But yeah, because he gets exploded and he doesn't speak, and so it's the only thing that made me wonder why they did this is like he has the Autobot symbol on his wings in that episode, and but yeah, it's obviously not meant to be him. This is the first appearance where he speaks.
Does this Transformer exist as a toy?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, they've done a couple different versions of him. There's the classic G1 that came out with the Autobot triple changers along with Sandstorm and Springer. And so he scales with them. So wrap your heads around this.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's the same size robot, but he turns into an aircraft carrier and also into a jet, similar to how Octane turns into a truck and a plane. So it's that kind of weird thing.
Oh yeah,
Much more extreme.
Whoever came up with Broadside's character bio seems sadistic to me, because his alt forms, like I said, are the aircraft carrier and a plane/spacecraft. His bio says that Broadside is both afraid of heights and gets seasick.
Oh my God, that's Buddy Ansky on a bender, it would seem. And the reason why I asked if this is Broadside's first appearance, because or at least speaking, is all of his manner of speaking is all nautical. He's practically shipwreck. Everything is like matey and ahoy and all these nautical terms.
Huh.
And to say nothing about the fact that the Autobot Navy, quote unquote, is just Broadside and Sea Spray.
Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't.
And I never really put that together. That I guess there really aren't a whole lot of Autobots that are boats. You would think there would be more. I mean, I think that's the only reason why Sea Spray is in this episode, because it's like, well, who else do we got that's a boat? Sure.
Well, in that case, they'd be called boat bots instead of Autobots, I guess.
Okay. I'll allow it. Speaking of, though, how great is it seeing Sea Spray again? You got Alan Oppenheimer doing his gargly merman voice.
I think the last time we saw was his highlight episode where he turned into a merman.
Yeah. So now, well, let's talk about this for a second. It's been 20 years. It's like, did he? Where's he been? Has he been with? Does he want to be where the people are? Has he been under the sea this whole time? Or did they move to the surface world? I have so many questions. I need to get my friends in the fan fiction space to get on this.
In whatever way he's been with her.
Yeah, that's what's up.
It's love. He's been in love.
So Broadside and Sea Spray are on the hunt for Triptychon. They're trying to find it, like James Cameron.
Let's move on.
Huh?
Yeah, tell us more.
Okay. So they're hunting for Triptychon, and Sea Spray finds his footprints at the bottom of the sea. So obviously Triptychon is still around and has just wandered off. And then we transition to luxury cruises. Sailing
I was like, what?
by the African country of Carbombya, a desert kingdom ruled by the controversial military commander Abdul Fakadi.
It's funny, the voice here. I mean, it's the voice cast in this particular episode feels very small. You get a lot of Michael Bell. You get a lot of Dan Gilvezan. You get a lot of the usual players. But I like that this Captain Steubing stand-in is just Jack Angel doing his Astrotrain voice, because he's talking into a megaphone, so it almost has like the same vocal effect. That dude's just drinking Energon right there.
It is a purple drink. I didn't even notice that. The guy on the ship, yeah. I will say, unlike normal cruise ships, where you only have to worry about terrible quarters, constant diarrhea, and being elbow deep in Federo family clan, which is a joke I wish Aaron were here for, because we're the only two people on the planet who get that, this ship has to be concerned with ship-to-shore missiles from Triptychon.
Wu-Tang forever, by the way. Look at that the emblem on the captain's hat.
That's
yeah.
That's a Wu-Tang symbol if I ever saw one.
Also deep cleavage.
Yeah, it was nice. And this, so
For a children's cartoon.
So TFCON is firing on the ship from shore, and apparently he and Octane are just hanging out in Carbombya, which has an extremely racist city limit sign of 4,000 people and 10,000 camels.
Gross.
It's like, Paul Davids, what are you doing, buddy?
I get lost in the order. So is APDC doing the episodes in production order or story order, or I guess in a sense, what the better question I'm trying to ask is, this feels like a precursor to Starscream's Ghost.
Yeah, I have that note. So we're doing in production order, which airing order is different. We skipped around a little bit because, like, Daniel's Surprise Party's in there, but we skipped that one. Starscream's Ghost we did earlier, but Starscream's Ghost both was produced and aired before this episode, which makes no fucking sense.
That's wild.
I mean, it does make sense because, as we talked about in Starscream's Ghost, basically they retconned the script to make it Octane instead of
Blitzwing.
It's supposed to be Blitzwing. Yeah,
Yeah.
but they made it Octane because he was a new toy. And it doesn't make
Gotcha.
sense if you even think about it for a minute, if story-wise, because the whole story in Starscream's Ghost is that Octane is with the Autobots because he's on the outs with Galvatron for being a traitor for this episode, even though in this episode, Galvatron doesn't really, they end up on good terms, so doesn't hold up.
No matter how you slice it, it was just interesting because, like, when I was trying to make my choice onto which episode I wanted to jump on, I put it out on Twitter, and saying, like, okay, well, here's a poll with no context, and I put 2 episodes, and I had a couple folks saying, well, Thief in the Night has a tether to Starscream's Ghost, so that seems like that might be more up your alley, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. But then watching it, I was like, yeah, wait a sec. What order is this stuff in?
Mm-hmm.
Don't think too hard. It's season 3. It probably doesn't make sense. So.
Yeah, it doesn't. It makes less sense than most of season 3 because, like I said, it's both produced and aired after Starscream's Ghost. It only makes sense because of they're selling toys.
Gotcha. So, do we want to talk about Octane for a sec?
If you sure.
I don't know. I got a weird take on his character. He kind of reminds me of like almost like a Don King type of figure. Like almost like a hype man promoter type of thing.
Okay.
I don't know. It's just like but with a degree of smarmy slipperiness also, just like, it's very
hustler?
80s. Yes, very much so. Just like Trip to Babes and all that kind of stuff. I mean that's how people talked in the 80s. It was a weird time.
It was a wild time, y'all.
Exactly. But I don't know. I got more of a handle on I think this is more of a spotlight for Octane's character than we see in other episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of get a feel of who Octane is here. He's slippery, he's smarmy, he's shifty. He's kind of I landed on this the second time I watched it through for my notes. He's not quite Swindle. He's not quite Starscream. He's kind of like that middle ground between the two. Because he does have some degree of treacherous ambition that spoilers goes nowhere.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, now that you're saying that, what I think is, like, he is a try-hard in that he has the ambition but not the carry-through.
Yeah. And he's not very bright.
No, and also, like, I have this note a bunch of times, but, like, why don't you and TFCON just kill the leader and take over? Like, why do you keep kowtowing to this flesh creature?
Well, and as we see, they basically operate the oil refinery or the oil derricks and the Energon refinery themselves. Because apparently it all just works on a convenient cranked wheel where it's just and it just makes more Energon, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I have a note about that in a second when we get to it.
I jumped ahead a little bit.
No, that's fine. Triptychon basically is convalescing in Carbombya because the climate is much better for his health than Dinobot Island, which I guess he was on at some point. We never see that or comes back. Sort of, I guess, like how Doc Holliday went to the American desert to ease tuberculosis.
He's a snowbird, it's like he goes to Arizona to warm up his his creaky bones. But how about a name drop of Dinobot Island? It's like it's not often that we get bits of continuity. It's frustrating that it's a reference that goes nowhere, but it's I don't know, I just it was one of those things where it made my ears perk up. I was like, ooh, Dinobot Island.
Yeah, but no.
Why is Octane running?
Next or a
exactly.
plane.
Yeah, just be cars.
Yeah,
or
so then
just be planes.
We cut to leader Abdul Fakadi, who is not happy. These two Decepticons have outlived their usefulness. The boys are eating Fakadi out of house and home, sucking up oil to make their Energon drink. And we learn here exactly how energy efficient Triptychon is, because it takes 1,000 barrels of oil to make one Energon cube, and Triptychon drinks 50 cubes an hour. I did some math on this. I took an unreasonable amount of time working all this out.
I was hoping you would.
You're all going to hear about it. So assuming Triptychon, we're going to just assume he's on a human schedule where he's awake, quote-unquote, 16 hours a day, like us. That's 800,000 barrels of oil per day, which is about $70 million worth of oil. And that's 1.3 billion kilowatt hours every single day, or 1.3 terawatt hours. Now, to put that in perspective, the entire planet Earth uses 18 terawatts per year. So in less than a month, Triptychon uses more power than the entire planet for a year.
Wow.
It's one.
Caleb just woke up, by the way.
Yeah, I was totally nodded
He
off.
fell asleep. You can't see that.
Oh, for real?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought I had a completely different take. I was getting a little self-conscious because I thought I was bulldozing through the doing my Mike Seibert thing where I just muscle in and accidentally take over because I got so many notes and stuff I wanted to say. I was just like, okay, maybe I just need to back off a little bit and let Ryan tell the story. I wonder what Caleb's up to.
I was asleep.
He was legit. I looked over. I'm like,
That is
he hasn't
so
spoken
funny.
in a while.
Sorry.
It's all right. Boom, boom, boom. This goes on for a while where we explain exactly how much fuel Triptychon uses. That's quite ridiculous. I am terrible at math, and it took me probably 30 minutes to work all that out because just Googling it and trying to figure it out. But God damn it, it's going to be in the episode.
Yeah.
Are we almost over, by the way? Is everything all right? Are we almost done?
Are you joking?
I'm joking.
Okay, I can't tell. It's so dry. Oh, and Abdul Fakadi's upset, and in just a second, we're going to see him confront Octane and Triptychon and order them out of the country by sunset tomorrow, or he'll call in the Autobots and have the Decepticons executed in the town square.
How?
I don't know.
Why?
This is
Yeah,
what
because
I'm saying of like, why doesn't Octane and Triptychon just kill this whole ruling
Right.
class?
Well, I guess this is a hot topic of the day in the real world.
I do love this Energon, like, whatever.
And again, it's just Octane just cranking and cranking and
Yeah,
cranking
yeah.
and cranking. It's like what is he actually
Yeah.
operating there? Is
I don't know.
he operating the conveyor belt that's putting out the Energon cubes? Is he
Yeah.
opening up the spigots for the oil? It's aggressively unclear. You know what else is aggressively unclear? I don't know how much legislation in APDC we've done about Energon as like a consumable, because it's I mean it's basically everything, it's fuel, but it's also food.
Yeah.
It's kind of, and in this episode in particular, it's shown to be in a few different forms. Like he's eating cubes, later they're drinking
them,
cubes.
yeah.
Is there a difference between the drinking kind and the eating kind?
Well, also, I mean, we see in this episode where they actually give us numbers as to what it takes to make an energon cube. Not that this matters, but it like way, way more than we've seen in other episodes. In particular, where they also call out how much it takes to make an energon cube. Like this one is just insane how much energy it takes to make a cube.
It's almost like the nature of the energon is made to fit the.
But also, this is
episode.
is meant to be super energon, I guess, which they say later.
It just fits the plot of the episode.
Exactly. I mean, because it wasn't. Well, it's been 20 years in Transformers continuity time, but like it used to be, Thundercracker would just take like a hose of oil and just like pour it into empty cubes, and it's interesting. So it's like it's become less fuel efficient, in the interceding time.
What's interesting is I didn't even think about that, but because this is an 80s show, but this is supposed to take place in 2006, and they're like, we're still pumping a shit ton of oil. Like you're not operating as if we're in any kind of future world at all.
Huh.
Oh yeah,
I never thought about that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because I mean that was obviously the thrust of season 1 and season 2 to an extent. Is it's very much a commentary on the gas crisis of the 70s, and conservation of resources and things like that. So that became like part of the narrative thrust. That like it's so weird when like young people experience G1. It's just like, man, it seems like there's a lot of power plants. Was there a problem with oil and power in the 80s?
There was so much of it. There was so much of it.
The short answer is yes.
So, Abdul Fakadi confronts Octane and Trypticon, orders him out, but Octane has a counteroffer. Does his supreme whatever like gold? Yes, Abdul Fakadi does indeed like gold, but it would take all the gold of the United States to persuade him to let the Decepticons stay another day.
That's so much.
It's so very conditional too. To say nothing about like these folks roll up on camels. I mean, what else would they roll up on? But that's still mildly uncomfortable.
I don't have a problem with that necessarily.
Yeah.
Until later.
Until later. Yeah, then it gets real uncomfortable. But yeah, it's this whole dialogue, this whole scheme is just nonsense.
Yeah,
I love gold. Well, yeah, who doesn't? Fucking gold members.
Have you guys ever ridden
Rich
camel?
Paradise?
They're very
no.
They're not
I have
comfortable
not
to ride.
I did it at the zoo as a kid, and I mean, yeah, they're fine. They're huge and scary.
Yeah.
Anyway,
They'll
all.
They'll spit in your face.
Well, don't get me hard.
Oh.
It's like, what is this? My browsing history? My God.
Videos.
Yeah, there it is, the extreme tab. So yeah, I mean, so he wants a rich paradise as opposed to an Amish paradise. Sorry, I just watched. I watched the Weird Al movie, and I really wanted to make that reference.
Oh, you did watch that?
We haven't.
I
seen
did.
it.
I watched it.
How did you get your eyes on it? Do you have Roku? Oh, you
Quick
pirated it, didn't you?
No.
Okay.
I don't do that stuff. I don't sail the pirate bay.
I would.
Almost to my detriment. I miss stuff sometimes because of stupid morals. Actually, it's not even morality. It's just my stupid boomer handle on technology.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was fretting about like trying to get this Roku channel nonsense. And we have a smart TV. It's either an LG or a Samsung. I don't remember which. But anyway, so I go to my apps and I'm thinking that I'm going to download the Roku app to figure out what to do it. Motherfucker thing was already there.
Nice.
I already had the Roku app on my TV, and it had been there for years. I've had this TV for like 3 years, and Roku had been on it the whole damn time. So all I had to do was create a profile, username, email, password, and all that. And yeah, there it is. It's just there for free. But yeah, no, the hard recommend. It's, if you've seen the trailer, then you have an inkling of what you think the movie is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I promise you, it's that and more.
Okay.
Awesome.
And I'll leave it there.
Cool. I'm excited. I want to see it, obviously.
It's terrific. It's for fans. It's for normos. It's great.
We cut to
Probably.
Fort Knox with huge amounts of pyramids of gold behind a security of a single chain rope and 3 patrolling guards.
Because that's how it's stored.
Yeah, Triptychon
Yeah.
and Octane show up and rip the building off its foundation, dumping the gold, which I guess was just sitting inside that single door. I mean, they don't really dump it because they take it with them. They take the whole fucking building with them.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pops out like a Lego.
And go ahead and take a look at what we're seeing on screen of the building, which actually does look like where it's located, and then we'll cut later to where they find the location after it's been stolen, and it looks completely different.
In the deserts of Kentucky.
Yeah, the deserts of
Yes.
Kentucky. That's right.
Fort Knox facts, since I prepared
Please.
notes for this episode. No one knows the combination to the vault in Fort Knox.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Strict security measures are in place to keep Fort Knox secure. That means no one person knows the entire entry combination to access the gold vault. Instead, the information is divided up among several people. Even information about who knows a piece of the combination is classified.
Oh.
There's said to be more than 147.3 million ounces of gold in Fort Knox. Nearly all of the gold has been converted into gold bars, each weighing about 27 pounds. That much gold at the current market of gold,
Mm-hmm.
whenever this wiki post was created, means that Fort Knox is storing about $190 billion worth of
Ooh-wee.
gold.
It's
Wow.
so crazy that we've all just decided and agreed that gold is worth something.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
the whole thing about money and commerce in general. We've just all agreed that money is worth something.
Yeah, that's how it
Mhm.
works.
It's weird. It's
Yeah,
weird to me.
You gotta, I mean, some, it was shells.
Yeah, I mean, at some point we can't do barter and trade anymore.
You
You got to
gotta-
do. It's got to get bigger. But like, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, gold is nice because it's if you steal it, you can always melt it down and it's untraceable.
Yes. It's
There you
good.
go. There you go. Well, I was going to say, with your communist socialist leanings
Mhm.
there, it's like, you're not going to watch a Star Wars, but it sounds like a Star Trek would be right up your alley.
Cold press Latin.
I've heard of Star Trek before.
Yeah.
Just never was into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
That's a joke for everybody
Yeah.
who's
Mine loves
just
Star Trek.
coming
He
to
does
this
love it so
podcast in
much.
episode
Yeah.
190.
There you go. There you go.
So
I
they
get-
steal this goddamn building.
Also, those soldiers in there, they're super dead.
Yeah.
And also
Because watch as he picks up the building.
Okay.
First pops it out like a Lego.
I do
and
love
you
how
see
all-
see- yeah. No, those
bricks
people
all
are
fall on them,
smashed
Yeah,
that
they're
like
dead.
that rebel kid that got smashed with the sled with the money on it in that Andor. See, I tied it all
You're right.
together.
Thank
I tied
you.
it all
Good job.
together.
You did good.
Also, oops, accidental spoiler for like episode 4 or whatever, whichever one that was of Andor. But I did find that so ironic that like this idealistic young rebel, he's like, oh, I got my manifesto, and just totally gets smushed by a sled full of money.
Subtle.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
Um,
I was like, oh, that kid ain't shit.
I will say about all these buildings that they steal, they're built really well.
They really are. You can rip
Yeah.
them up by the foundation and they stick together. Real sweet.
Nope. No plumbing, no electrical. It's just like a goddamn USB port.
This could easily be somehow be a G.I. Joe episode 2, I think.
Kinda.
Sure. Yeah. So we're back from
Yeah.
commercial. And an army general and a private pull up to where Fort Knox was supposed to be. Looks completely different than where it was before we went to commercial. No more grass, no more trees. We're now in the deserts of Kentucky, like Mike said. Only to find it's a big hole in the ground. There's there's no plumbing. It's maybe a 2-foot indentation. Well, I guess now it looks bigger. But
That's deeper, yeah.
we cut back
Stupid.
to Carbombya. Abdul Fakadi is pleased with the delivery of not only the gold, but the entire fucking building, and allow Octane and Triptychon to remain in Carbombya until the next crescent moon. I don't know why he could have just said 3 weeks, but whatever. But Triptychon will be on a strict ration of 1,000 barrels of oil per day. Now, I did some back-of-the-napkin math. And according to Tryptocon's energy needs, that would be the equivalent of us subsisting on about 2 calories a day.
It's not enough. It's not enough.
Some days it's
So
enough for me.
Octane's right. He's going to starve.
Yes.
And again, Fakati brings up the Autobot threat, because, I wonder if Abdul Fakati has watched the Michael Bay movies or something to where he, because, those Autobots routine murder unarmed prisoners. That's kind of what they do, tearing faces off and all that other stuff. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
I think he has a different preconceived notion of what the Autobots actually do.
Well, especially the G1 Autobots.
Yeah, exactly.
This is again, I have that note. I don't really see why Octane and Tryptocane don't just kill these fuckers, but
yeah, just right there, just smush.
We cut to Rodimus. Go ahead.
And what happened to the soldiers? So are they hostages now, or
they just ran off into the desert and died?
Run away.
Probably exposure.
We cut to Rodimus, Perceptor, Grimlock, Sandstorm, Metroplex. Why is Sandstorm here? He doesn't speak or do anything.
It is the sand, kind of, because we're in the deserts of Kentucky again. And I stole that joke from TF Wiki, by the way. That is not a Mike Seibert original.
Ooh, peek behind the curtain. Metroplex and the Aerobots at the site of the former Fort Knox. They find some scattered Energon cubes when Perceptor investigates because Grimlock says the cubes smell funny. And he detects dinosaur transform static all around here.
What's that? Is it the fossil fuel thing?
I think he's a dinosaur, and Tryptocon's a dinosaur, and it's kind of like Call of the Primitives, where they can detect each other. It's just a convenient trope for the episode.
Yeah, that comes up again, and I'm going to comment on it later. I'm like, that's kind of problematic.
Both Grimlock and Metroplex jump to the strange assumption that maybe the other Dinobots had something to do with this, and there's an interrogation that happens in a little bit.
Yeah, not good. Not good.
Well, and while we're here, Rodimus drops the titular line, Thief in the Night. I'm like, that's the name of the episode.
Yes, he does.
It's more like a thief in the day, but
that's another TF Wiki joke. I see what you're doing.
Yes, I might have it up in front of me.
You fucking hack.
It's research. It's research. Oh, what was I going to say? The Dinobots do crime? Why do I have that note?
Just because they're like both Grimlock and Metroplex are now going to question the Dinobots as to whether they did this for some reason. I don't know.
Oh yeah, because it's interesting that the assumption is that the Dinobots.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's some like season 1 prejudice. That's like, I thought that shit died with Huffer.
Well, it's also weird because Grimlock is the first to suggest it.
Yes. And what is up with Metroplex's voice, by the way?
I don't know. I didn't know.
I don't.
Let's see. Let me play.
He just has a weird kind of voice delivery. It's just, I mean, it's not anything that's necessarily up. It's just, I just feel like it's a really weird vocal delivery there.
See, I'm gonna play it.
Dinobots do this crime.
That's highly improbable, Grimlock. The Dinobots are primitive, but they are Autobots.
We can't rule anything out, Perceptor. We'll have to interrogate all the Dinobots.
Yeah, it is weird, and it's not. There's no like filter put on it. He's just like this. He's just talking like this.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's just kind of like a weird thing. Anyway.
Octane plots to take over the Decepticons with the use of the Energon still available to them, though I'm not sure how that squares with the 1,000 barrels a day ration, which seems to have been forgotten. Octane needs to keep Fakati happy, and His Excellency wants a new palace, so the duo will get him a new palace, which... if it hadn't already, this is where the episode becomes Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? And Trypticon is about to steal the Taj Mahal.
Taj Mahal facts.
By Caleb.
Shah Jahan was the 5th Mughal emperor and ruled from 1628 to 1658, when his third and favorite wife, Mumtaz Mahal, a princess of Persian nobility and also Agra native, died. Shah Jahan was so overcome with grief that he wanted to build the Taj Mahal as a testament of his undying love for her. The Taj Mahal is built of red sandstone and covered in large plates of marble, The artisans who helped in the construction of this world wonder hailed from many different countries and regions, including Central Asia, Iran, Syria, and Turkey. It took them 20 years to complete this momentous project, and over 20,000 artisans were involved.
They steal the fucking Taj Mahal. Here we go.
Yeah. Just pops it right out.
Like it's a model.
And again, not to like talk about stupid animation shit, but like the size of Triptychon and Metroplex vary greatly.
Oh, sure.
Depending on what building they're standing next to.
I would like to see the Taj Mahal. I heard it's very beautiful.
I heard it was.
Piece of shit.
I didn't even want to finish the joke because it was so dumb.
That's okay.
No, I
Here
couldn't
comes
see
the
it too.
Decepticons.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs, Galvatron, and a bunch of other
look-
Decepticons show up to ruin the party for everyone.
Fuck those
Galvatron
guys.
does call Octane a traitor, who he had no permission to take Triptychon away from Dinobot Island, and Octane's like, no, Daddy, you got it all wrong. See, me and Trippy here, we're just using this new form of Energon to get better. Here, try some. And Galvatron takes it down and loves it. New Energon. In your belly.
Yeah.
I do like Frank Welker's Galvatron.
Yeah, it's great.
It's like, it just that unhinged insanity. It's just he's like, that's good.
I did want to capture this because Galvatron's little giggle, especially at the end.
Real quick, try some. You'll love it. Drink and crush.
It's good. Makes me stronger, more powerful.
Wow, it's like
Well, I love
it's like the new
and
Pepsi.
of course he wipes his mouth on his sleeve like a real
Oh, that's true.
cartoon villain. And I don't mean to pick on the ACOM too much, but the cubes stay solid, but they turn brown.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I don't like that. And
Either
again,
make
it's
them
like
clear or just make them. It's terrible. It's
and again, are we eating it or drinking it? Though I do have an idea for an APDC t-shirt slogan.
okay.
So as a compliment to like Ingester and Victory, I
Yeah.
really like that line from Triptychon where he's like, drink and crush. That seems
Okay.
like that's kind of our TFCON slogan. It's it's a lot of drink and crush.
Drink and crush. Yeah, as long as the bar is open. Yes.
Yes,
Mm.
as opposed to the sadness restaurant. I do like that they have like this shitty Bill Murray themed restaurant that is in
It's
no
kinda
way
fun.
Bill Murray. Is it though?
No,
I don't know.
I
I
thought
think
the
it's
management was very mean.
no. I meant the idea is fun. Like
The idea is fun, but like you got to do something other than put posters on a wall. It's like, a poster for Groundhog Day doesn't make it a Bill Murray
their
themed
website
bar.
does have him in the place.
Yeah. And I'm like, ooh, that
So,
place looks open.
Yeah, I'm sure you had to drop by at some point.
West and I did have dinner there one night, and I feel like no shade on the service or whatever. Well, I guess a little bit, but our server did like I was like, oh, I'm gonna. Whenever we were done, I never finish my meal, so I always take the rest of it with me. And I'm like, yeah,
Sure.
Can I get this to go and get another one of these? And I pointed at my drink that I was having. So what I got was a drink in a plastic cup to go, and he threw away my food.
Oh no.
They sucked. I will
So
say,
dumb.
I would say the food wasn't bad.
No, it's
but
fine.
The service was
It's fine.
The service was terrible.
The bar I liked. There was one. Oh God, yeah. Okay, so
if you could get their attention, they were good service. But
we
it's
talked.
just like,
I can't remember
fuck.
if I don't think we mentioned. Well, I don't
We
think
we have not told the Malort story. Now would be a good spot to do that.
Well, that's not what I was going to talk about.
Oh shit!
So-
Oh, that's right, because you weren't
I
there for
wasn't
that.
I was going to talk about whenever Aaron and I think you were with us, Caleb. Whenever we went, must have been maybe the first night we were there. We went down to the bar to have some drinks, and there was that dude sitting to my right, and West was sitting to my left.
Mhm.
And this dude was like every he was from like the San Fernando Valley, I think, but he was like every like 60-year-old
Shots fired at San Fernando.
horrible like corporate douchebag guy.
He's just a big Goomba kind of guy.
Yeah. And he like I think this happens to me all the time.
He couldn't take his eyes off of West.
People just will like pretend like they don't think we're together, or maybe they just don't know we're together, and just start talking to her. And like he was kind of like
she looks
said
so
some stuff to her, and then I introduced her as my girlfriend, and I know for a fact, and Wes and I both agreed that he thought she was a sex worker.
Yeah.
And
like, how would someone so exotic be paired up with a man so as simple and as plain as you are?
And so I was forced to speak to this man for a little bit, and thankfully they were leaving the next day, so like I didn't have to see them again. But it was real weird, and like then I was drawn into this whole dialogue tree of why we were there and what a Transformers convention is and what a podcast is.
I'm sure that went over well with that guy. He was there with whom?
Oh, and he was there with his business partner and physician.
Yes.
As if he's like Dr. Gonzo.
Yeah, I want to know more about the guy, actually.
Yeah, like he's like, it was so fucking strange. Like he's Hunter S. Thompson.
He couldn't take his eyes. Every move that West made, this guy was all over it.
Yeah.
He was fucking sleazy.
And to reiterate, we were at the bar, and I was in between the two of them.
Yeah.
And so, but the way this guy walked up,
he
he walked up with a box that had, I think, like cheesecake or some kind of cake in it, and he handed it to the bartender. And what he said to her was, "Hey, I'm sorry about last night. You know, basically, this is like a peace offering." He's like, "I'm not that kind of guy."
Yeah, right.
And it's like, you're definitely that kind of guy. He was like, "That's not me," and I'm like, "That's definitely you."
Yeah. I will say why that was going on. So that's nothing on Caddyshack's, really.
No, I guess no.
I
like
no,
I
suppose not.
That was happening to me on the right side. On the left side, I saw a guy sitting next to me on this left side. He ordered a drink.
Oh yeah.
They did not bring it to him. They brought his food and his everything. He's like, "By the way, I need that drink." They did not bring it to him again. Mind you, there's maybe 10 people in the bar.
It was not busy.
Point. They finally brought him the drink after I'd had like, I don't know, a couple of cocktails. That was pretty much the status quo for the whole weekend. It was
very scattershot.
They did not. You did not get good service at the evening, and the managers were ready to close up as soon as
anytime
possible.
You want it.
Yeah, they were ready to like as soon as like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock hit. These managers, their only mission was to shut the place down. Shut it down fast. It sucked.
So much so to where Caleb, thanks to your quick thinking, we actually got to eat on Friday night because like you ordered a couple pizzas and some delicious Italian meat sandwiches.
Oh yeah. And the thing is all of the tables when we were in there were reserved, and I realized the reason that they'd put then they complained that we were eating at tables that were reserved. This was like at 10:30 at night. The reason they put up reserved signs was to prevent people from sitting there, to reduce the amount of bus work that they had to do. Like they were intentionally putting reserve signs up to actually keep people from, I don't know,
using the restaurant for its intended purpose.
Yeah. It was fucked up.
That
place needs to be changed.
I came down at like 10 o'clock, I think, and so I was pretty hungry at that point. I'm sitting at a table with my buddy Andy and Jim Sorensen and Aaron Archer, a humble brag, by the way, a humble brag. I'm just hanging out with these people, but no, it's like we're kind of getting kind of hungry, and so I got a menu in my hand, and Yo Dude comes over and he's like, well, hey, can I what can I get you? I'm like, well, I'd like to get some food if I can. Dude laughed at me. He was like, no, kitchen is closed, dude. And I'm like, okay, it's like that. Well, that's
not how a restaurant works.
So I came through. I bought a pizza and some Italian subs for Mike and the gang. Mike paid me back. Jim Sorensen, haven't seen that money yet, but we'll see what happens.
We'll hit him up on Twitter. Where are we? Okay, so boom, boom, boom. We are at the interrogation. We just paused.
Okay. Here we go.
I'm awake now.
Okay.
I have thoughts about this sequence.
Six Gun, Scamper, and Slammer, Metroplex. I cannot say his name. Metroplex's goons are questioning the Dinobots and Skylinks about the weird dinosaur static detected around the site of the stolen Fort Knox. But Perceptor shows up and immediately informs everyone that the Energon is a Decepticon formula made out of oil from Africa, Carbombya specifically. The Dinobots are innocent, almost like we didn't need any component of this in the story at all.
Yeah. So first of all, Six Gun is like, I don't know if he's like the Brian Dennehy character from First Blood, just looking to hassle people or whatever. But he's got like provisional sheriff energy to him. I do like that bit of Skylinks being
Upset.
bitchy about being not a Dinobot, because he's not.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is a physiological difference between Skylinks and Dinobots. I mean, Dinobots were built on Earth, whereas Skylinks is, I would assume, some kind of native Cybertronian. But this whole sequence kind of has like this weird racist undertone against the Dinobots. Am I on Weirdo Island by myself on that?
I see what you're saying. Like they're second-class citizens of some sort. They're always being like suspected of something.
So let me throw this at you guys. So obviously this sequence sucks and it adds nothing to the episode.
Nope.
But what if and I don't know how to rework the entire episode, but let's say that the Trypticon stealing the buildings is a mystery of sorts. Like we don't know it's Trypticon, and we actually do like suspect the Dinobots. That's 3 times now I've completed that.
Yeah.
But like I don't know, I just thought about that to where it's like that whole sequence at the beginning where they're watching previously on the Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
That sequence kind of sucks. This sequence kind of sucks, but I wonder if you flip those around in some kind of way. I mean that doesn't work story-wise, but it feels like you can do something with the mystery of who is stealing these monuments.
Yeah.
But it's a completely different story than the one that we had.
Oh, I agree. I think you could play into that, and they touch on it very lightly with the Inquisition, as far as like. I think it's really interesting how they're like putting an Inquisition together for the Dinobots because of the shared dinosaur
Transform static.
Transform what?
Transform
Static.
Static. It's just like no, sure. I agree with you. There could be they could mine into that a little bit more.
I
but...
don't know if we could make this episode good.
No, and really, what it is that both sequences should be dropped. You know, the video at the beginning and this whole thing. This is just padding.
It means nothing.
I
It
agree.
is padding.
But this is the only appearance of the Metroplex goons, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it is. We're trying to give trying to give voices to these toys or something.
Sure.
But yeah, what a weird use for it. But I guess in a sense, Six Gun would kind of be the sheriff of Metroplex if Metroplex was a city of some kind. I'm really reaching. I am straining here. He's the Cobb Vanth.
You're gonna get a cramp trying to contort into this.
Well, I think it'd be a bigger discussion than they're hitting all these huge landmarks, and how does that tie in with 80s pop culture where they're like grabbing Fort Knox and Taj Mahal and the Kremlin?
Yeah.
But you know what? We'll skip that because there's something interesting in and of itself that this episode is unusual in that they are able to have a presence in Soviet Russia, which at the time, like if you were to put this episode together in the context of the time it was produced,
yeah,
I don't know if any Autobots would be allowed to have a presence in.
You just need a minder.
Sure, I agree with they did that with like concerts and stuff.
Rocky 3
Rocky
4.
3.
4.
Yeah.
It's Rocky 4. Don't come at me.
Rocky 4, yes. Billy Joel with his but I guess what I'm saying is like It's weird that you call the Autobots the Soviets would call. Like the Soviets should have their own Autobots.
You keep using the word interesting, and I feel like I have to push back that
Sure,
none of this
push
is
back.
interesting.
Yeah, and all of my crackpot nonsense is an effort to try to make some of this remotely interesting.
All right.
Sure.
It is fascinating though that
No, I know what you
the-
mean. I was just kidding, Caleb.
No, it's okay. I'm gonna go back to sleep. now.
Okay.
God, but it is interesting, like from like a geopolitical standpoint, as opposed to like an intergalactic political standpoint. Is it fair to say that the Autobots present as American?
Well,
You know, as
Yes,
kind-
I would say so.
we'll get to that. We're all over the place right now.
No, we're not. We're focusing on one subject right now.
I mean in the episode, because
Yeah.
we've talked about
Yeah,
Russia.
we
We're
haven't-
talking
we
about
haven't gotten to
literally
the
the end of the
Soviet- yeah,
episode. But there is a part at the end of the episode where that does come into play, because the only thing Rodimus mentions is Fort Knox to return the U.S. gold.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. Good point.
So we are back in the international waters. Broadside, carrying the aerial bots, approaches Carbombya just as Triptychon emerges out of the ocean. Does not appear to notice anybody. Carrying the goddamn Eiffel Tower, which has no intrinsic value. Maybe it's like Facati said earlier, where he wants a tourist attraction. But to me, stealing the U.S. and Europe's shit is going to cause them to invade your nation, which we love doing to Middle Eastern and African countries.
Mhm,
So I just don't understand the end game. But meanwhile, Facati is pretty upset that more Decepticons have showed up and orders them out. And again, I don't know why Galvatron doesn't just splatter him against the wall. Whatever.
One, because insanity. But I like how this does kind of sort of pay off, because Facati brings up again the threat of calling in the Autobots, and Galvatron's like, good.
Yeah.
Let's choose violence. Let's mix it up. And sure as shit, Ryan's favorite, the aerial bots show up to
This part
yeah.
gets a little confusing at the end, but go ahead, Caleb.
It also just ties in with the politics of the day, where you had these big Middle Eastern dictators that were essentially, they had a lot of money, they were oil rich, or they were trying to posture, and as part of that was they were appropriating or stealing, their ideas from other successful cultures. And I don't know, they were trying to, it was like keeping up with the fucking Joneses is what it was.
Yeah.
So the Ergobots show up, and Triptychon starts blasting. Galvatron orders his Decepticons that it's open season on the Autobots, and we go to commercial.
Is it never not open season on the Autobots?
I think
Aren't
he
they
specifically
actively
says-
engaged in war?
Yeah, I think he specifically says it's hunting season,
I think
which is a
it's
cool line.
It's like 365, 24/7. Booyah.
Boo Rahim.
Boo Rahim. Mike, do you understand Boo Rahim?
Yeah.
He listened to the episode.
I listened to that episode.
All right, Boo Rahim.
Boo Rahim.
We're gonna make
And yet not a one of us used that as a greeting when we were in
True, we did-
Chicago. It should have been Boo Rahim, Boo Rahim.
Well,
prayer
it's-
hands, prayer
it's
hands.
It's like this advanced level of participation in the APDC universe. We're thinking about making rings, almost being like a Masonic or a Shriner type of thing.
It's a great idea.
Where
Oh,
we-
I like that.
where we're gonna have like Boo Rahim, like
A little signet ring.
yes, that's exactly right.
I
That's what
did
we're
just
thinking
buy silicone molds and resin to make physical objects like that. I was thinking of making an APDC magnet or something, but I could make a ring,
about. So it's like I've seen this with Masonic.
or I could just
I'm
have
sure,
Bono
like-
do it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But we're thinking about having a subsect of our.
We're starting our own cult, is what
fandom.
we're saying.
That like if you're in on the Boo Rahim, that's like an extra level of like knowledge within the culture.
So it's not quite Wakanda forever. It's like something else entirely. You got to do
It's Wakanda,
different.
Wakanda sometimes.
Back from commercial, the Decepticons, low on super energon, break off the attack and return to Carbombya, and this is where it gets confusing, because then we immediately cut to Rodimus, Perceptor, Grimlock, and confusingly a bunch of aerial bots in Moscow. And it took me a bit to realize that time has passed and they've gone to Russia, because I guess they overheard the plan to steal the Kremlin.
Yeah,
Got
but
it.
not really the Kremlin.
No, it's not the Kremlin.
No,
You
no,
have
it,
it is
it,
St. Basil's.
St. Basil's, yes, Cathedral. More
Little
recognizable.
fact on St. Basil's Cathedral.
Please.
The first Tsar of Russia, Ivan Vasilovich, also known as Ivan Grozny, a nickname meaning sparking terror or fear or stern, Ivan the Fourth, and the Grand Prince of Moscow ordered the construction of the cathedral in 1554. I don't know if that's Ivan the Terrible.
Ivan the Terrible, I would assume.
Yeah. Upon Joseph Stalin's ascent to the head of the Soviet Union, St. Basil's fell out of favor because they didn't agree. They outlawed religion and was in danger of being destroyed in order to make room on Red Square for larger demonstrations and marches. Architect Pyotr Baranovsky supposedly sent a telegram to Stalin saying he would rather kill himself than demolish the historic cathedral, and subsequently spent 5 years in prison.
Oof.
During that time, the state's attitude changed and St. Basil's was spared. So this guy said, I would rather be killed than you tear this down. And they were like, okay, well, we'll just send you to prison and not tear it down. And then within an amount of time, the attitude changed and they spared it.
It is difficult to explain to anyone who didn't live through it, in the same way, I'm sure, like I've talked to my father about what the Bay of Pigs must have been like, or not Bay of Pigs, the Cuban Missile Crisis must have been like. It's difficult to explain to anyone who didn't live through it just how weird the 80s were with the two superpowers, the U.S. and the USSR, like how terrifying the USSR was as a presence.
Yeah.
It's not really a thing. There's not really an analog nowadays.
They were so, but on the flip side, I've learned that on the flip side that the Soviets were so, they were kind of isolationists in a weird way. They had espionage, but they thought that we were also going to be aggressive with our nuclear aggression, and we thought they were going to be aggressive with their it's like the separation of communication. Like, it was nice that Gorbachev softened himself and Reagan softened themselves enough to talk to each other, be like, oh, we're actually not as aggressive to each other as we thought. From a nuclear war standpoint, we can back off of this.
Well, and it was interesting because right after World War II, where we were the only ones who had the atomic bomb, there was talk about, what if we just wipe out?
Yeah, let's just do it.
What if we just wipe out Moscow?
Sure, yeah.
They don't have atomic bombs. What if we just kill them all now?
Yeah, there was this whole deal where information was so restricted into the Soviet Union that it did even affect the upper political establishment. They just conceived their own ideas of what we were doing, and then of course, since they were so isolationist, we conceived our own ideas of what they were doing, and it almost got to the point where we thought each other was going to fuck each other up. In reality, we're just both scared of each other. Now, I'm not justifying anything. I'm just saying, like, it was nice that we actually got together and said, hey, how do you really feel? Oh, I see. You disagree with my politics and my ideas, but you're really just scared of me.
And that was the plot of Rocky IV.
That's right. Oh, you
Yes.
What was he say? What did he say?
He said, "If I can change,
I can
you can
change.
change. We all can
You
change.
you all can
Two guys
change.
killing each other as opposed to 20 million."
Yeah.
Okay.
Rocky
So,
fucking 4, man.
all
And
right.
it connects to Transformers because you change into a car.
Ooh,
That's right.
shit.
So
we're in,
the Autobots are in the Soviet Union.
we're in Moscow watching a traditional
I
Russian
associate
dance.
the Autobots as American. It is interesting to see, especially when this episode was made, that the Autobots are allowed to be in the Soviet Union.
Yeah,
that's actually pretty significant in my mind.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
I did.
I understand.
I did.
Triptychon shows up right on time and rips the Kremlin out of the ground to make off with it.
Yeah.
The Autobots helpless to stop him until this is another point. Right before this, Perceptor says that Metroplex is on his way, but he's stuck in Siberia. Metroplex shows up literally 15 seconds later. Why do we need this line at all?
That look on Rodimus Prime's face at that screenshot. Yeah, like, it's amazing how well St. Basil's can hold up when a giant dinosaur robot carries it around. But oh fuck.
Yeah, Metroplex shows up. Triptychon chucks the Kremlin St. Basil's Cathedral at Metroplex, who catches it, and the Decepticon runs away like a big purple pussy. Like, and then the Russian army
Don't
starts
threaten me with a
attacking.
good time.
Yeah, like a Muppet. Then Trypticon is attacked by the Red Army, and confusingly, the Russian government thinks the Autobots were there to steal the Kremlin, expel them from the country. And we'll get into it in script deviations, but Paul Davids wrote several other Transformers episodes I really like, and this one seems like maybe he was ordered to come up with it in like an afternoon, like maybe after he took mushrooms or something.
Sure. Yeah,
Now all the world leaders think the Autobots were stealing the thefts. Like, no one on Earth has any ability to form permanent memories. It's just fucking insane.
You know,
So now we have two mysteries that go nowhere.
Yes.
First of all, we have like the Dinobots that are suspected. Now we have the Autobots that have been framed, and none of it comes to anything. I mean, again, it's just nonsensical nonsense. It's just really aggravating, really dumb. Greg Berger is a treasure, though.
Mhm.
Any line that Grimlock has even in this episode is gold. You know, about like, oh, building snatchers. I just like his turns of phrase. It's so funny.
I've seen that TikTok. All right, Abdul Fakadi. That didn't get nobody
it's
laughed
okay,
at that.
It's all right, sorry.
I didn't.
Abdul Fakadi sends out a broadcast to the Autobots, inviting them to invade his country and expel the Decepticons. And finally, fucking Galvatron declares, what if I just take over? And imprisons Fakadi and his crew.
As opposed to just murdering
Killing
them.
I guess we
Just-
don't want
just
to see
smush.
them destroy, like, straight up just killing humans.
I don't get it. I just don't get it.
It's not even. I don't know. Whatever. It's bad. So they're locked in a pen, and I'll just wait for this to catch up. There we go. Broadside shows up with Rodimus, the Dinobots, Aerialbots, and oh good, Blur and Wheelie. Thankfully, they do not speak. Metroplex and Trypticon square off in a rematch, Rocky 2 style. Definitely hitting that Rocky segment on the bingo.
I love it, and I do love that.
It's fucking insane.
Yeah, I mean that is not how aircraft carriers work. By the way, it's like it's not a land docking vessel. Like basically, Broadside just kind of like runs aground,
Yeah.
and Rodimus and Blur and Wheelie just drive
off.
He hits,
like you do, as one does.
yeah,
as one does.
Broadside hits the beach so hard that it kind of propels them onto the shore.
Ah, there it is.
There you go.
So,
But you were saying something, Ryan. I interrupted you.
no,
Sorry.
I was just saying Metroplex and Trypticon square off in a pretty fast fight. Metroplex's signature move, he just easily overpowers Trypticon and chucks him over a cliff into the ocean.
Those are throwing him around. Look, he just throws him around.
Throws him out like the trash.
That's it. That we never see
And so-
Trypticon again, right? Do we see him?
No,
Do we ever see Trypticon again?
I think we do.
I think he returns like immediately. I think. I don't know.
I don't know. I won't know
And
until
the-
I actually don't know.
Turns the tide and the Decepticons retreat.
Stop throwing him in the ocean.
Yeah, right?
Rodimus frees Fakadi and demands the return of the USS Gold and theoretically the rest of the monuments, though he does not say that.
Does not say it.
And this is where, oh God, okay. So if all of you were worried we get out of this episode without any more racism, here's what Fakadi says, which I will read, and then I'll play it to capture it, so I'll put it in the episode.
Join my army!
No thanks. Keep your offers and just give us back the gold.
Ah, yes, the gold. I suppose it does have to go back, does it?
Indeed it does. And I need your word that you'll never cooperate with the Decepticons again.
Oh, you have my word of honor, Rodimus. In fact, I swear to you on the grave of my mother's camel, and my uncle's goat, and even my sister's donkeys. And did I say my brother's sheep and my nephew's roosters? Such fine roosters you never did see!
All right.
That's-
So, and all that's laid over Metroplex putting the monuments back. And that's the end of this episode, which clocks in at a very short 20 minutes. And even that felt too long. I did not like this episode, and I want to apologize to you, our friend Mike.
Mike,
Oh, that's
We owe you a
fine.
favor.
Mike, I want to thank you for taking up the slack while I fell asleep during this episode.
I really thought you were just being quiet. I didn't. I had no idea.
I'm never trying to intentionally fall asleep, but I had
It happens more often than you'd imagine.
Oh my god!
It's like
You might want to get that checked out, dude.
Yeah, well,
narcolepsy.
Yeah, yeah. I will talk to somebody about how it only happens when I'm recording with you. But other than that, yeah, maybe I need to like figure out another approach to recording, which would be more caffeine or standing. I don't know. I try.
The couch looks very comfortable.
It's not though.
Not really.
It's not. It's really if I
Not
was
the way
in-
we sit, because we sit like on the edge of the cushion.
I sincerely feel if I was in an office chair, I would not fall asleep. But I'm on this broke dick sofa.
So we can go ahead and stop sharing.
Sorry, I'm being anyway. That being said, yeah, I will make an effort to stay awake. This episode was weird, and let's talk some more about it.
We do have. Are there anything you want to add before we move on from the end of this episode proper, Mike?
You mentioned the episode is very short. It's like 20 minutes.
Mhm.
Have you guys talked about in previous episodes? I don't remember. Like the at the end of this episode, there's like the history of the
Yeah, like a
Decepticon.
promo weird thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and several of the episodes will have these later. You know, it's like from like the files of Teletran 2 or some such like that.
Right.
But like I don't know if this is the first instance of this one,
I
but
don't
like
think so.
it was one of those things where it came up and I watched it and I was like, oh, this is actually kind of cool because you get that Victor Caroli narration, and it's like a season 2 sizzle reel.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, I miss all those characters, and now I'm stuck with all these lame-os. I mean, it's interesting because, like, I mean, again, my affection for Transformers the movie is well documented. We're not going to litigate that here, but conversely, I don't have a great deal of affection for the season 3 cast. You know, it's like I mean that they're fine, but they're not amongst my favorite characters by any stretch. And just seeing all those season 1, season 2 dudes, I'm just like, oh, I kind of miss that. I kind of want to be watching those episodes instead of
I wish I were watching that.
Absolutely. It just but yeah, no, it just that struck me as kind of funny. And one note that I think I blew past it when Galvatron shows up at Carbombya. He's talking to Octane and saying like, well, hey, you didn't have permission to take a Trypticon off of Dinobot Island. I need him for my plans.
Mm-hmm.
What plans?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
What, and it's kind of interesting. So like something that I swear we need to find a format to have this conversation, but like something that's popped up either on Twitter or in these episodes, or even sometimes spills into my show, this perspective of how much of Megatron remains in Galvatron.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we're not going to do a full litigation here, but like that little bit about the plans is, I would present that as evidence that Galvatron is a different guy than Megatron, because even Megatron had shitty plans. You know, it's like, oh, we'll attack the rocket base at sunrise. Galvatron has no plans. He says he does, but he really doesn't. I mean, he's like a Cobra Commander and that kind of thing.
Could you argue that Galvatron is Megatron, but that he's kind of, because of the transformation and being stuck in that pool of whatever, that he's just kind of office it's Megatron.
I think it's pretty clear he's office rocker, but
yeah.
I mean, we talk about this. I still
Still
maintain
same.
Definitely he remembers being Megatron, but
Yep. And because of his insanity, that created, I think, a bit of an altered, exaggerated persona.
Yeah.
Now I don't, and I don't. I have to be very delicate here, because like I'm going to make some kind of comparison with certain mental illnesses. You know, because like, you know, there are afflictions that alter your personality and make you not you. So I mean, I wonder if I mean, again, to talk about something very serious in kind of a glib fashion with like a dumb kids
Sure.
cartoon is kind of gauche, but like, you know, we constantly talk about themes of like our own mental health and stuff, and I just wonder if that is accidentally what the solution between the Megatron Galvatron dichotomy is, that like basically as Galvatron is, he's suffering from some forms of mental illness.
Sure.
Well, he literally goes to a therapist later.
Yes,
Does
yes.
he really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Well,
It's a whole thing, but like,
sure.
I mean, and it manifests as like cartoon insanity. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know. This time around, I just landed on that. You know, the how certain afflictions can alter your personality, that kind of thing.
But look at this. No, you identify as Megatron. You are essentially damaged and rejected, and then something transforms you into and redefines you as Galvatron.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have some issues.
Sure.
And so I can understand where you're gonna have some sort of identity issues and some emotional baggage. So yeah, I would say they are both. I like the idea that they, like, Galvatron has memories of being Megatron. They are the same. There's a continuity of memory there, but yeah, Galvatron has got some serious fucking issues because of that transition, and he needs to see a therapist, and apparently he does.
Well, it's compulsory. Basically, Cyclonus commits him.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay.
Hey, we have a new voice actor for this episode.
Tell us about it.
Bill Martin as Broadside. This is the only voice he does for the Transformers franchise, though his other credits include Sam Hain from The Real Ghostbusters, Nightmare King from Little Nemo, Adventures in Slumberland, and Shredder in later seasons of the 1987 Ninja Turtles after Uncle Phil James Avery left the show, R.I.P. Martin also wrote the screenplay for one of my favorite movies, 1987's Harry and the Hendersons. My question to you boys is Bill Martin alive or dead? This is a fun-ass game we like to play.
Is Bill Martin dead or alive? I'm going to go...
Dead or alive?
Dead. He's dead. He's dead.
Okay.
Well, to be contrarian, I will say he's alive. That way we can
deceased.
I win.
Martin, you win the saddest prize that's ever been. Martin died in 2016.
You win death.
He died in 2016 at the age of 70 of unknown causes, which I assume are known, just not publicly.
Right. Ryan, what's happening in the real world?
Glad you asked.
In the real world.
Thief in the Night, October 6, 1986, in the American Top 40. Mercifully. I think this is the last episode airing during the #1 reign of Huey Lewis and the News is Stuck With You. So let's talk about a song that was #1 for 1 week in July of 1986, Holding Back the Years by British pop group Simply Red.
Keep holding on. I'll keep holding on. Holding. I said.
Fucking awesome.
Oh, hell yeah.
The song was written by group frontman Mick Hucknall in a stream of consciousness style of songwriting when he was just 17 years old.
Well, that's amazing.
The song is pretty sad, which makes sense because it was inspired by the chaos Hucknall's life became when his mother left the family when he was 3 years old. According to Hucknall, he didn't realize what the song was about until he finished it, saying it was about that moment where you know you have to leave home to make your mark, but the outside world is scary, so you're holding back the years.
It's an amazing song.
Pretty
Simply
good.
Red. I forget the guy that was known as Simply Red. He was a sex addict.
David Duchovny?
No, that's another sex addict. Anyway, continue.
Michael Douglas?
No, that's another sex addict.
That's it for the American Top 40. #1 at the box office. Crikey! Crocodile Dundee is still
there.
#1.
Still there.
Quick side note, have either of you seen Wolf Creek 1 or 2? Probably not.
No.
I don't know what that is.
It's a
Neither
horror
one.
movie.
Neither one.
It's a
No.
slasher. It's an Australian slasher. West and I watched them recently. They're pretty good.
So be Wolf Creek.
Wolf
Creek.
Wolf Creek.
Wolf
And the
Creek.
main villain is enjoyable in an awful way. He has this fun, like, he does this giggle where he's like, yeah. It's great.
Australian.
And we do that to each other because we're a creepy couple.
Wolf Creek.
Anyway,
Welcome to
we'll
Wolf
be
Creek.
talking about a movie that was #1 for 1 week in April of 1986, The Money Pit.
Ah, yes.
Oh, sure.
Have
Love
you
it.
guys seen this movie?
A lot.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. It was a KDIB 27 regular rotation film.
I have that note as well. The Money Pit reached #1 in its 3rd week of release, which is interesting. It's a comedy starring Tom Hanks and Shelley Long, directed by Richard Benjamin. Hanks and Long are a couple who buy a mansion for a crazy low price and attempt to renovate it. Chaos and hijinks ensue. And there's a particularly memorable scene where Tom Hanks does this extended laugh sequence after their bathtub falls through the floor.
He
Right.
laughs hysterically.
Yep, it's great.
I love it.
The Money Pit is actually a remake of a 1948 Cary Grant film, Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House. Exterior shots for the film were a rundown house in Laddingtown, Long Island. And it seems like it was a cash suck in real life, too. It sold in 2002 for $2.1 million, was renovated, and finally sold again in 2019 for $3.5 million, which was a significant loss for the renovation cost put into the place. Money Pit was received fairly poorly by critics at the time and holds an even Steven 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. Though it did make a nice profit, $55 million off a $10 million budget. I have no fun facts from this week in history. Tune into our last episode where I talk about what it's like to turn 45 and who died at that time. I love doing that.
It was great in the real world. What you got next? What's happening now?
Script deviations.
Pew, pew, pew.
Tell us about him.
There's not much here because the original script isn't available. To start off, Paul Davids, the writer, as I alluded to, wrote some very fun episodes of the show, Cosmic Rust, Chaos, and Grimlock's New Brain. We've talked about this writer a few times. Go back to those episodes to hear about his other accolades because I don't want to talk about the Star Wars stories that he wrote with his wife. Anyway, some stuff about this episode. Carbombya is pretty obviously meant to be the African boogeyman nation at the time, which was Libya, with Fakadi standing in for Muammar Gaddafi. And the U.S. bombed Libya right around this time this episode was being written.
How about that? In Soviet Russia, car bombs you.
Oof. We talked about this in Starscream's Ghost, just to reiterate, but this not only aired but was produced after this episode, but seems to imply Octane is in the outs with Galvatron because of this plan, which makes no sense. Go listen to what we talked about earlier or our episode 187 for the discourse about how much sense that doesn't make.
I had forgotten that, like, you know, throughout my watching of the episode, as I shuffle my papers, I was keeping tally of any time somebody mentioned Carbombya. Would either of you like to take a guess as to how many times the titular country of Carbombya is mentioned in the episode Thief in the Night?
I will have to push back a little bit that it's not titular because it's not in the title.
That is true.
Just a pet peeve of mine.
Yes, okay.
Oh no, I'm doing it for shtick. Like
all right,
I have this thing where I use terms incorrectly for my own amusement. Nothing gets past my dude Ryan Jett though. I love it. I love it. No, that's awesome.
15 times.
I will go high and say 23.
Oh man, if we were playing Price is Right, you would both go over. But the closest was Caleb. 13 actually. Only 13.
My guess was ridiculous because that would mean it was more than once a minute.
Yeah, so I didn't include any I didn't include when it was like on the sign. But I did include when Octane talked about the super energon being Carbombya or Carbombian or something like that. Anyway, he doesn't say Carbombya, but I included that one.
13 times you said?
13 times.
Lucky 13.
Yeah, there you go. Not nearly as many as I was hoping for.
All right, you guys want to rate the scheme?
Where do you even start?
I will say that Fakati is the true winner in this. I will say that Fakati.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I really do.
Well, no, I like where Caleb's going with this because I think he's onto something.
He has nothing to lose and everything to gain here, and he ends up manipulating these robots to bring in all this landmarks to give his own whatever nation state he has some sort of relevance, and he ends up getting notoriety. It's really his scheme that is the scheme in the whole thing, in my opinion.
Okay.
I think that it works really well for him, and they just slap him on the wrist. He's like he's a stinker, and you know that he's just gonna be up dealing
like
with more
Bugs
of the same.
Bunny.
He comes out of this with basically
clean hands.
Clean hands, if not clean hands, you know that he took some of that gold from Fort Knox and skimmed it off. His scheme is great.
All right.
He saw desperate Decepticons and he's the manipulator in this thing.
I will add to that. I'm going to add.
I got to rate it. I'll give him a 9.
Okay.
I like it. I will add another wrinkle to kick on to Caleb's that might change it from like a 9 to like a 9.5. His scheme is to get these asshole freeloaders out of his country because Octane and Trypticon have outlived their usefulness, and he is absolutely successful in that. At the end of the episode, there's no more Decepticons in Carbombya. So he's successful.
I think, worst case scenario, he ends up right back where he was. Like,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So for me then, so we already talked about Fakati's scheme. I guess I'll who else has schemes here?
Octane's scheme goes nowhere.
It goes nowhere. That's a 0 out of 0. Would not recommend, would not do again. Galvatron doesn't really have a scheme either because he's like, ooh, super energon. Oh no, this stuff wears off super fast. Oh, here come the Autobots retreat. So he has no scheme. Six Gun has a scheme to needlessly and baselessly prosecute the Dinobots, and that kind of goes nowhere. Nobody has a good scheme here.
Nope. I agree.
So, yeah.
Anybody want to give us?
All right. So, okay, we can. I'm the ghost of the iconic moment. You know.
Oh shit.
Well, you always want to go with Carbombya, but it's not really a moment. I would say that for me, what sticks out?
I'll go ahead.
Go ahead. I can't think of one, actually.
I will say I just found it interesting that Grimlock's being a detective with the dinosaur transform static. That's weird.
He's all sniffing it. Now, he's eating that energon, too. Like, ooh, this smells funny. Num, num, num. I think. I don't remember.
I don't think he ate it. He was like, because it's like, I don't know what this is. It's like, which is show some restraint. I don't know. This is not like, obviously the iconic thing is the Carbombya, 4,000 people, 10,000 camels in a horrible way.
It has to be because, I mean, again, what was our perception of this episode? What was our one recollection of this episode before going into, oh, this is the Carbombya one?
Yeah.
So by default, I mean that has to be it. I mean, some of the Trypticon imagery is kind of goofy and funny. It's like, oh, me, big hero now. And in other instances, I don't know how often I've heard Trypticon speak. I don't know if this is like the Trypticon Spotlight episode, but like you really hear the Brad Garrett in his delivery there. I think maybe in a way I didn't notice it as much in Five Faces, but it is. I'm expecting him to start referring to Octane as Raymond, drink, crush. Stupid.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that
this episode sucks.
It does. That's the name of this That's
was-
the name of this one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
all right.
fun to talk about, but fucking A, does it suck.
That brings us to the end. Mike, why don't you give us all of the things and tell us where we can find you on digitally, and give us your address so we can come to you in real life.
Oh, sure. You can listen to my podcast, Mike Seibert Radio, everywhere you can listen to Autopod Decepticast, I think. You can find me on social media at Mike Seibert Radio, and the spelling on my last name is Seibert. I'm on social media. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm pretty active equally on all of those different platforms. Twitter is probably the easiest and best way to stalk me on the socials. You can also find me lurking around, causing trouble occasionally on the APDC Discord. And so some of my recent episodes that I think APDC fans might enjoy. Around Halloween time, I did a Two Mikes Too Furious with our buddy Michael Andrews. We talked about the Halloween episode of Transformers Animated. That was a ton of fun. We were hoping to start our new podcast, Two Mikes Too Furious, talking in this style, directly inspired and ripping off your format here on APDC. We're going to talk about Transformers Animated.
Nice.
It's one of his favorite shows, and it is a total blind spot for me. I have not watched it all the way through. The only episodes I've seen are the two that we've talked about so far, me and Michael. So that's probably between Thanksgiving and Christmas is when that's going to happen. I also did an entire episode about TFCON Chicago, a hangover and chat episode. I'm looking at the runtime for that episode. It is oppressive, but folks said that they seem to enjoy it, and I kind of flesh out some of the stories that we touched on here, including the saga of Malort that we got to enjoy with our buddy Jay Soup. So
that's gonna be. I got a bottle of Malort from the local liquor store. The guy ordered it for me, so I have a fucking fifth of Malort that's never gonna be consumed completely. But I did try it. I don't want to talk about what I thought about it because it's gonna be on an upcoming episode, and but I will say, I think I can make this into a cocktail.
I think you can. I'd like to do a shot of it right now, actually, before I drive home.
Oh, that'll perk you right up, Caleb. That's what it is. It's like if you ever find that narcolepsy taking you, Caleb, just do some Malort. That'll fix you right up.
No, you'd be surprised. I go through there's a cycle. Like I was watching TV last night, and watching it, and then it's weird. I don't remember falling asleep. I remember being awake, and then all of a sudden I remember waking up and being like,
that's kind of what sleep is, though.
So anyway,
you just described sleep.
But then thanks. And then I was okay.
Sounds delightful.
But then I was okay. I think I have to push through it.
Technically, this is our Thanksgiving episode. This will come out the 20th.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Mike, what are you doing for Thanksgiving?
I don't know. Probably eating some food, maybe watching some shitty movies with my wife. That's kind of our thing. We kind of keep to ourselves. And
yeah.
I usually watch the Mystery Science Theater marathon, and I'll probably make a duck this year.
Oh man, that sounds awesome. I have some fond memories of the Turkey Day marathon. Like I think
it's on YouTube now.
Oh shit, even better. That's great. I might have to dip into some of that. That's some good stuff. I'm a lapsed Misty. I think I kind of need to get back into it.
It's really nice that my girlfriend is into most of the pop culture, Transformers aside, that I like big into horror movies. She likes Mystery Science Theater, so it's a nice crossover. I think that's the end of our show.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? If you like us and like what we do,
I was hosting this episode.
I was waking up.
Hold on.
Wake me up inside. Can't wake up. Caleb can't wake up.
I started this episode. I'm gonna finish it.
Oh my God. You okay over there, buddy?
Next episode. Next episode.
Next time on the Autopod Decepticast.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot to do it. Hold on.
Ryan, do it.
Next time on the Autopod Decepticast.
Buckle the fuck up, because it's going to be a wild ride with Daniel and Wheelie and surprise party.
It's not, though. Because
Yeah.
that's
It's not,
the
though.
next
'Cause I
episode.
messed up because I forgot that this was it. Buckle the fuck up because it's going to be what episode?
Madman's Paradise.
Madman's Paradise.
Buckle the fuck up. It's the episode that Mike Seibert isn't on.
Yeah. Actually, no, the next episode is going to be the one you were on.
What?
Right?
Yeah, but not after the.
No, where
want
we're
me to do
here
this?
now.
Not after this one,
No,
though.
I'm going to finish
Leave
this.
all this in. This is
No,
terrific, by the
I'm
way.
going to finish this. We're so.
Can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish?
So let's see. We recorded this second, but it's coming out first, and there's the next one, and then we're gonna be on it, and then nope. Ryan, you do it. Don't say anything. Just keep going.
Definitely did it.
Give my fellow Decepticons! Give till it hurts!
If you like us and like what we do and would like to prove it monetarily, you can go to our Patreon, patreon.com/APODcast. Many different levels of support, and we just started a Discord, which is right now a Patreon exclusive. So at any level, you can join that, and we will interact with you. It's got people talking. And if long-term commitment is not your bag, you can go to our website, autopoddecepticast.com/APDC store. We have lots of merchandise up there. Getting ready to make some more. We've got some coming down the pipe. Our booty boxes are coming out pretty soon.
Really?
Well, we're making them. Theoretically, they're coming out soon, and then sometime at the top. Probably, I'll say Q1
Okay,
of
there you go.
2023.
So expect
They're
them
going into production
They're a
soon.
few months away, everyone.
And please rate and review us on wherever you listen to podcasts: iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify. We just joined Amazon Music. I guess I did that.
Good job,
so if
Ryan.
you want to listen to it there, go do that. What else? If you'd like to buy us a drink, just send us $5 at on PayPal at APODcast. Tell me what you want me to make, and I will make that drink. And tell me who you are and what you want me to shout out, and we will put it on an episode.
Yeah.
An upcoming episode. I think that's all of the things. Join us on Twitter, all the socials at APODcast. We're mainly on Twitter, Instagram. We are also on Instagram and Facebook. I don't know how much we use that. I don't do either
I
one.
post the episodes on Facebook, and occasionally I like stuff.
Yep. So there you go. This was a good episode.
I think it was. We miss Aaron very much. We're hoping he's back soon. And we
Please,
really,
because I fucking hate doing the hosting.
Yeah, and I'm not very good at keeping track of
He
stuff.
literally didn't stay awake.
I'm sorry. I fell asleep. I didn't mean to do that. I really didn't, but I did take notes.
Meanwhile, you have Mike Seibert running roughshod all over the place.
Thanks.
We've
Hey,
been
by the way,
recording
by the way, Mike Seibert, give us some plugs. What
He
you got
did
going
already.
on?
I did. I
He
did.
did.
That already.
It's not in the order of the fucking.
No, we did it. We do that before we do ours.
You could check out my episode about my Lambros. I don't know.
Absolutely.
See, look at that. I mean, I have 12 side swipes on my shelf back there, and I talked about them for 3.5 hours on a live stream.
Speaking of 3.5 hours, that's how long we've been recording. I don't know how long this episode will be because we did not take any breaks. So who fucking knows?
I'm sure it'll be great. This was a good episode.
Yep. All right, that's it. Go
Shout out to that Patreon content.
You can listen to this again if you don't want to interact with your family this Thanksgiving. All right. Bye.
There you go.
Bye.
There, make good choices.
Thank you. That's it.
We did it.
I think we did it.
We did do it.
Fuck.
Thanks for helping out, Mike.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime. Always glad to help.
Cells is the sponsor of Autopod Decepticast. Yes.